theyeshiva.net.
Okay, so the Gemarah quoted a big machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. On the bottom of Yud Amud Beis, the Gemarah brought a brisa that Rabbi Eliezer, the Tana Rabbi Eliezer, held that the world was created in the month of Tishrei, which more precisely means on Chafhei Elul, and Adam Arishon was created on what we call Rosh Hashanah, which would be the first of Tishrei. And Rabbi Yeshua disagrees, and he holds that B'Nissen Nivra Ha'olam, the creation of the world, was in the month of Nissen, which... Hayom Haras Olam is today is the birthday of the world.
I understand, but it's not. You said it's Chafei Elul.
Right. So the same question is in Musaf. We say Zeh Hayom Tchilas Ma'asacha. Zikaron L'Yom Rishon, like Hayom Haras Olam.
Could go on. Rishon could go on something else. Hayom Haras Olam.
No, we're saying Zeh Hayom Tchilas Ma'asacha. So the Rishonim say, because since the Tachlis, the objective of the whole Bria, of the creation was Adam, was the human being, so therefore, so to speak, this is when the objective of creation was completed. Rabbi Yeshua disagrees, and he says that the world was created in the month of Nisan. Now, generally here, we'll see later, there's a whole Tosfos later in Rosh Hashanah. In every argument that we say in Torah, we say, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Both have a truth to it. Both perspectives have a truth to them, even if the halacha is like one. And it's divrei Elokim chayim, whether it's Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, any argument. We say, Elu ve'elu, both have an emes to them. Here it would seem, Pashat HaMachlokes and Metzias, it's an argument in reality. Tosfos is going to say later that actually they're not arguing. One is talking about machshava, and one is talking about maisa, which is very interesting. In other words, there's the way the world was created in thought, like in plan, and then the way the world was created in action. And that's the difference between Nisan and Tishrei. So it's not Stam, he has his psukim, so he decides Nisan. He has his psukim, he decides Tishrei. It's actually both shittas have an emes to them. One, that's what Tosfos says later in Rosh Hashanah, one is in the world of machshava, and one is in the world of maisa. I just wanted a bavaran that we'll get to that a little later in the Masechta. So therefore, the Gemarah then analyzes the reason for each shitta. In other words, what's the source of Tishrei, what's the source of Nis? That's not the only argument. The Gemarah also brings the argument, according to Rabbi Eliezer, Tishrei is the month. Tishrei is the month that the Avos were born. Tishrei is the month that the Avos passed away. Besides Pesach, which is the month, which is the holiday when Yitzchak was born. And then he continues that Rosh Hashanah is the time that Sarah, Rachel, Chana were remembered. It's the time that Yosef went out of prison, and it's the time that the Jewish people ceased to be enslaved in Egypt. And finally, it's the time when the future redemption is going to come. But Nisan Nigalu, but B'Tishrei Asidin Lehigal. That was the view of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua argues on many of these counts, not on all of them. The first is the creation of the world happened in Nisan. Second, the Avos were born not in Tishrei, as Rabbi Eliezer said, but rather also in Nisan. They also passed away in Nisan. Again, with Yitzchak, he agrees that they were born, but Yitzchak was born on Pesach, which Rabbi Eliezer also agreed. He agrees that Sarah, Rachel, Chana were remembered on Rosh Hashanah. He agrees that Yosef went out of prison on Rosh Hashanah, and that the Shibud, the enslavement, stopped in Egypt. And finally, he argues about the future Geula. B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Nisan Asidin Lehigal. The future redemption will be in the month of Nisan. The Gemarah then quoted the sources of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua in terms of the psukim of Bereshis. Why Rabbi Eliezer believes it was Tishrei, Rabbi Yeshua believes B'Nisan. Rabbi Eliezer believes it was Tishrei when the trees already produced their fruit. It's already it's already trees that already are filled with fruit, where Nisan it's just beginning. And that's why Rabbi Eliezer believes that Maaseh Bereshis, the look of Maaseh Bereshis was a Tishrei look. It was not a Nisan look. It was a Tishrei display. It was not a Nisan display. It was also the time of rain, as he says from Parshas Bereshis. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, it was a Nisan look, not a Tishrei look. He brings other psukim, Eitz Oisapri, Vatoitzia Oretz Desha. It was the beginning of the process of growth, the beginning of the process of vegetation. It was also probably the time of intimacy between animals, which is more in the spring, early spring, not at the end of the summer, not early winter. That's a second idea, and hence he believes that Maisa Bereshis is a Nisandika experience. The Gemarah then explained what Rabbi Eliezer does with, what Rabbi Yeshua does with Eitz Pri, which seems to mean that that the Eitzim already had Paris on them, which is not Nisan, it's Tishrei, that it completely teaches something else, that everything was created with full maturity. Usually a tree needs to go through many years until it develops the capability of producing fruit. But everything in Maisa Bereshis was l'koimosam, it was created already in its full level of maturity, functioning on its most mature level, including Adam and Chava. They weren't created as babies who would crawl and there was nobody to help them. They were created already as husband and wife, adults, who can even start having children, ad kedei kach, biologically pashut. The same is true, he says, with everything else in Maisa Bereshis. And not only that, the bigger chiddush was l'daitem or l'tzivyoinam. Everything was created through its own consent. Everything was asked if it wants to be created. And not only if it wants to be created, but how it wants to be created. L'tzivyoinam, from the word rotzen, its exact image, its exact identity, its exact composition, its exact structure. Rashi says its exact flavor, its exact image. It was all by consent of creation that you learn out from the word v'chol tzavam, v'chol hashmayim v'aretz v'chol tzavam. This is the point that the Gemarah made till now about the argument of these two views. Zog the Gemarah weiter.
Will she also say that the Echad B'Tishrei is Hashanah?
Yeah. Rabbi Yeshua agrees that the Echad B'Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim. You want to know why? You're asking a question. We learned before that Rosh Hashanah L'Shanim means, one of the interpretations is it's Yom Hadin, right? Ki choik li Yisrael hu mishpat l'lekei Yaakov. It's the day that the Ribono Shel Olam examines the whole year and decides what's going to happen throughout the whole year, as we say in the Tefillas of Rosh Hashanah, Nisan HaToikef, etc. So you're asking a good child. Loit Rabbi Eliezer, I understand. Since B'Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam, that's the day Adam was created. So every day that year, so to speak, everything goes back to the beginning. It's like the day you created your company. Once a year, you make a cheshbon hanefesh to see, the dividends, the losses, the gains, etc. So the day Adam was created, everything, so to speak, goes back to the beginning. You start over again. But according to Rabbi Yeshua, you're saying, but Nisan Nivra, it's a Chodesh Nisan. So why is Yom Hadin? Why is Yom Hadin B'Tishrei, right? So I saw two interesting explanations. The Ran says, because Hashem wanted Yom Hadin should always be near Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur is a time where everything could be forgiven, so he wants it should be right near Yom Kippur. That's why it's in Tishrei, not in Nisan. Even though Adam was created in Nisan.
I thought it was fakir. He wanted Yom Kippur to be after Rosh Hashanah.
Well, the Ran says, according to Rabbi Yeshua, right, Yom Kippur was the cause to have Rosh Hashanah nearby.
Hashanah should come first, and then he created options, so to speak.
Yeah, but in other words, that Yom Kippur is a time, Tishrei, what we call is a time when you can recreate yourself, so to speak, rebirth. So that's when should be the day when you're examined. In other words, you shouldn't be examined from a perspective where you're stuck. You should be examined from a perspective where you within yourself can see your infinite potential, which is what Yom Kippur is, what Shuv is, and so forth. The Aruch LaNer says, very geschmack of art. He says, Tosfos says later in Rosh Hashanah, that Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua are not arguing. One is speaking about the world of Maisa, and one is speaking about the world of Machshava. You don't have creation with Maisa without Machshava. Just like you create a house. First you have a blueprint, you have a plan, and you have the whole house in your mind. It's also a house. It's usually much cheaper too. It's also always perfect. The house in Machshava is always perfect. It's impeccable. It's flawless. The construction guy doesn't make any problems. The architect, whatever, everything is perfect. There's a lot of construction people here. So you know that the link between Machshava and Maisa and construction is Kirichayk Mizrach HaMayrev, and the customer is usually always miserable. Right? Always. That's the Tzad HaShavar Shabakulam. He's always upset. 4 years later, and he's still upset. So, no, Machshava, no reason to be upset at Machshava. Machshava, the paint is right, and the foundation is right, and the wiring is right, everything is right, the windows are right, the doors are right, etc. Also, Mekenzach Kosten in Machshava. In Machshava, there's no Mekenzach Kosten. Okay, so there's Machshava and Mais. There's a famous Medrash, Maimon Chazal, Rashi brings it also in Bereshis. It says, Bereshis bara Elokim. Throughout Ma'aseh Bereshis, throughout creation, only the name Elokim is mentioned. Not once the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. At the end of all of creation, it says, Eila told us Hashemayim v'aretz b'yoyim hasois, Hashem Elokim eretz v'shamayim. The first time Hashem is introduced only at the end of the story of creation. Why is this? So Chazal say it's brought in Medrash, and Rashi quotes it. B'tchila Allah b'machshava livrei ha'olam b'midas hadin. In the beginning, the machshava was that the world should be created b'midas hadin. That's Elokim. Later, Hashem saw ein ha'olam miskayim shittifim b'midas harachim. So the Aruch LaNer says, therefore, since, according to Rabbi Yeshua, the world of Nisan is the world of Machshava. Nisan is the first month. Tishrei is the seventh month. So Tishrei Nisan was the first world, the world of Machshava. And B'tchila Ra, Machshava, the Olam should be Nivra. The Olam should be Nivra b'midas hadin. So therefore, since that's the Olam b'Machshava, it should be Nivra b'midas hadin. So therefore, that's what the Yom Hadin is. That's what Hitainis. That's another explanation that I saw in the Aruch LaNer.
No, that's Nisan.
No, I stand corrected. Tishrei, according to him, was Allah b'machshava. It's not clear which one. There's two ways to look at it. So he says Tishrei was Allah b'machshava, and since Allah b'machshava livrei ha'olam midas hadin, so therefore when Rabbi Yeshua thought when would be the Yom Hadin, he went according to the date when it was Allah b'machshava, which is Echad b'Tishrei. That's what he said. Because that's when midas hadin fakert. In Maisa, it was midas harachim. So Mele, he was thought to be Olam b'machshava midas hadin. It's not clear. There's two different ways of how to learn if Nisan is Machshava and Tishrei is Maisa, or the other way around. That's how the Aruch LaNer learns.
How does it work with the sun? Meaning the sun doesn't take a year to go.
It does, no?
And it started when? Hashanah or Nisan?
That's a good question. You want to know when the orbit of the sun actually started, right? That's practically the question. When you say B'Nisan Nivra Olam, it means that Wednesday, right, before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, whatever. Remember, everything is being created anew, so it's not like we're calling it Rosh Chodesh. We say Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we mean there was Adar, there was Shvat, there was Tevis here. There was nothing before. This is it's the first. Call it Nisan, call it Tishrei. I mean, it's only called Nisan and Tishrei legabe what comes, not legabe the past, right? You understand that? But that's taka the question. When was it established?
The sun wasn't created that day.
No, I'm saying Wednesday.
Right.
Wednesday of Brias Ha'olam.
So
when was that?
The sun in the orbit that it would be.
That's the question.
No, that's what the Rebbe did.
Where would it be in the space of Nisan,
Right.
or would it be in the space of Tishrei? Now, there's going to be nafka minas for this.
Is now a space where there is every year the same place?
Yeah, of course.
So it would be different.
Space, it means time.
Yeah.
How-
What?
With the sun was
Berchas Hachama, every 28 years. Yeah. Yeah.
How could it be
We're going to learn about this. This is a big sugya in Rosh Hashanah.
before creation?
There was no time before creation.
So how
The
could
Rambam
it-
writes that Zman is a nivra. Time is also created.
If it's Olam Machshava, does that mean that the time started to work then before was based
Machshava,
on
yes.
time came into existence?
In Machshava.
But I mean, there was no sun, no moon. We go by
There was a day
these things. So how could it be time before time?
Lav Dafka was in time. That's what Machshava is.
What was time created?
Al-Vanachal explains it.
But the time was created when? In Machshava?
Rizal asks a question in Eitz Chaim. He says, why is it that the world was created 5,777 years ago? Why wasn't it created 1,000,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 1,000,000,000 years ago, 100 billion years ago? Vos epis, why were we so lucky that 5,777 years ago the world was created? So the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, writes somewhere, he says that since the Shitta of the Rambam or Psadigon, I mean, most of the Rishonim and the Achronim is that Zman is a Nivra, time is created, so therefore you can't ask the question, why didn't he create the world before? Before he created the world, there was no concept of before. The very concept of before is part of creation. You say, before why didn't you go 1,000,000 years ago? There was no. When the world was created, the concept of time was created. For us, it's hard to imagine. What do you mean? You don't create time. Time is a given. It was actually Einstein who helped understand that time is another dimension. Just like an object has 3 dimensions, time is actually a dimension of the chayfetz. It's not some absolute given.
So when was time created?
With Bria Sa'ilam.
Yeah, by
Das ist der
day
Machlekes.
and night?
No.
No, which day? Which day? The first day?
Yeah. But he had a Vayvayka Yom Echad. That was the
And that
Bria of
days
time.
were the same size as
No,
today's
that's
days?
already
Or-
That's already a big debate. Al Pi Pshat, the way the Messiah is, it was days of 24 hours. That's why we have Shabbos on the seventh day. Are there other views about this? Yeah, this is a big controversy.
That's the
Huh?
whole I'm saying the Rebbeinu was L'mayla
Yeah,
B'Azman.
Rabbi.
I'm saying L'mayla B'Azman. He's outside the boundaries
Of
of
time.
what he created.
Yeah.
Avraham, the first man that created.
Yes. Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, the Erste
It's
Perek
not
of
a
Shabbos.
matter of time. Really, has a question that Hashem didn't see, minutes and is not going to work.
Yeah.
It's in the realm of space, not in
Whatever you
time.
want.
The closer you get to the center of Yerushalayim, the more sensitive you are.
Yeah, Midas
Some
Hadin,
people work themselves out again,
No,
and
Huh?
Midas Hadin
it
comes
says
out.
somewhere, I don't know if that the Torah was Mashafim 2,000 years before the
Alpayim Shana Kadma Torah
world.
Laila.
So it means time was there before.
L'cha'ira b'pashtus, it's explained, this is discussed, that Alpayim Shana means 2,000 madregas before Bria Sa'ilam. Not 2,000 years before Bria. Shana is like a metaphor.
There was a certain concept of time in that. If Madrigas or time or whatever was. a
You're saying
certain
not time as we know. In other words, the way we're describing today Torah, we're describing it from today's perspective that it's Alpayim Shana Kadma L'Bria Sa'ilam.
Possible to
So how is it possible if there was no concept of time, no concept of nothing? How is it possible to?
In other words, Torah is rooted in Hashem Himself. That's the point. Torah is rooted in Hashem Himself, transcending creation. Torah is not just Hashem L'Mosh. You have a country. A country needs a constitution. If you don't have a constitution, you can't run a country. So you would think Torah is a product of the world.
No, it doesn't have to be. It could be it was there forever. What's this whole time? Sure. So, which means
What did you say? The Torah is a product of the world?
No, I'm saying what is Pshat
No,
Kadma.
it's a stakla baraisa.
Yeah.
He needed that.
Yeah.
Is it
So-
possible to understand?
No.
To understand
so
what?
the 2,000 years.
It was
The Alpayim Shuna.
not that time, but the timing, that it's,
I mean, we have some examples for it with
if you don't understand it, that's true.
the Big Bang, Genesis and the Big Bang.
I thought it was
Don't
yesterday.
forget the Alpayim Shuna. Or should you make Alpayim? What's my Alpayim Shuna?
He's very into
Very,
this.
yeah, because he talks about it comes out to Cheshbon mathematically, he's a mathematician, with the expansion of from the cargo, from the
Big Bang,
Yeah.
primordial soup.
From what the Ramban
Chaimer Hiyuli.
But yeah, that rate of expansion, if you apply it to time,
That was created.
it ends up in 24-hour days at the
Rebbeinu
beginning, but
created
yeah,
the
over
world
the course of
that
the
has
years,
happened.
it's longer.
You don't have to believe. I'm asking
It
them.
comes out of Cheshbon.
Okay.
There's not a theory between Einstein's relativity theory and the other thing that's great time, because according to Einstein, time is actually not existing, it's just relative to
No,
the thing.
why is it a stira?
It's not.
He doesn't say it doesn't exist. He says it's relative. Why is that a stira?
There's a will, there's a relative.
It became relative when
It's not a
It's
stira.
relative, but in reality, it doesn't exist.
He says when there's a will, there's a relative.
And that doesn't say there were worlds created before this.
It does say Boina Olam Misamachriv, and it says in Medrash Rabbi, he created the worlds and he destroyed them. The Arizal Tain is it's spiritual. Olam Atoyo, Olam Atikun. There were those who argued it was physical. Al Pi Kisvei Harizal, which is usually the Paisik in these areas, it was Al Pi Ibn Ruchnis. But there were those who argued it was in Gashmis, yeah. That's a big discussion today. The people who want to reconcile the age of the universe and all that. Okay. So B'meila, so we have the two shittas, Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe Yeshua. Zog the Gemarah weiter. Daf Yud Aleph Amid Aleph, Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe. You see where we're holding, the line starts Elet Tzivyoinam. Yeah, Elet Tzivyoinam. I don't know, what is it, 15, 20 lines from the top. Elet Tzivyoinam, Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe. Rebbe Lezer continues, Minayin Shabbatishin Nel Duavas. He established that Tishin Nivra Ha'olam, Eitz Pri, and it was a Zman of Kshamim. And Vayemer Elkim Tachi Ha'aretz Desha, the month that the Eretz is full of Deshayim, it's full of greenery, it's already after Nisan. The lush is there at the end of the summer. Mashayk Rabbi Yeshua is B'Nisan Nivra Ha'olam. So Hashem asks an interesting question. He says, how did, if it was according to the Belez, I understand how Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas. According to Rabbi Yeshua, how they eat from the Eitz Hadas, it was the month of Nisan. So he says, it could be in Gan Eden, there was a different matzav. In Gan Eden, the trees were we're already grew fruits. According to Rabbi Lezer, it's clear. According to Rabbi Yeshua, he says it could be Gan Eden was an exception. That's what Hashem says. I'll call upon.
Don't we know that when Hashem created everything, it was at full maturity?
No maturity to be able to produce fruit, but in Nisan the fruits are not there yet. It was the state of Nisan in full maturity. But even today, you have a tree that's it could be 300 years old, but the fruits are not there. You have to wait. Like we learned before, there's chanot, there's a whole process. Usually in Nisan, you don't have the fruits yet. If you go to Eretz Yisrael, you have to wait a few months. Summer, you have the fruits. Rabbi Lezer, he also argues that Tishrei is the month when the Avos were born. What's the source? Rabbi Yeshua disagrees. Rabbi Yeshua holds that B'Nissen noldu Avos. Shenemar, the pasuk says, by Chanukah's Beis Hamikdash, Shlomo HaMelech builds and dedicates the first Beis Hamikdash, and he makes his Chanukah's Habayis, the celebration for the first Beis Hamikdash's completion, goes for 14 days. But when does it happen? So the pasuk says in Melachim Aleph Perek Ches, Vayikalu al HaMelech Shlomo Kol Ish Yisrael. All the Jewish people gathered to the Melech Shlomo when B'yerach ha'esonim b'chag. Hu ha'chodesh hashvi. That's the pasuk. They gathered in the month called the month of Esonim, during the holiday, during the Chag, which is the 7th month. Now, of course, the 7th month we know today is Tishrei, although, as we learned in Chumash, you don't have the names of the months, or in the Tanakh, you don't have the names of the months. Shmois HaChadoshim Ola B'Yodam Mibavel, but we call that Tishrei, the 7th month, the time of Chag, and he calls the 7th month, the month of Tishrei, Yerach HaEsonim. What's Pshat Yerach HaEsonim? The word Eson means mighty, powerful. Yerach Shenoldu B'Esonei Olam. Teaches Rebbe Lezer, the month when Esonei Olam, the mighty, the foundations of the world, the Yesodis HaOlam were born. So B'Meila, this is his raya, what's it called Yerach HaEsonim, the month of the foundations, of the mighty foundations. It's the month that the foundations of the world were born, which are the Avos of Avraham and Yaakov. That's what Rebbe Lezer tain is, and therefore he says, even though Yitzchak was born Pesach, Avraham and Yaakov were born on Tishrei. Frag the Gemarah, my mashma. How do you know the high Eson lishna the tekifihu? That Eson means a lashon, a term of power, of might, of something that's fundamental, a foundation. Kediksiv, Bilam speaks in Parshas Balak, and he has an expression, Eson Moishavecha. Your dwelling, your Moishav is Eson. What's Pshat Esav? It's Eson, it's sturdy, it's firm, it's powerful. Vaiter, and this is not just a raya for what the meaning of Eson is, but that it's connected to the Avos. We learned that Eson means chayzik, strong, but there could be other things that are powerful in the world. How do you know it's the Avos? That's how the Ritva explains what the Gemarah is going to add something now. Another word is, there's a pasuk in Micha. The Navi Micha Perek Vav says as follows. Shimu harim esriv Hashem v'ha'isonim moiz de'aretz kiriv l'Hashem im amay v'im Yisrael yisvakach. Literally it means, Shimu harim, let the mountains, whoever these mountains are, we'll see in a moment, let the mountains listen to Riv Hashem, to literally the quarrel, or the pain that Hashem is having with his people. That's what he says, Shimu harim esriv Hashem, kiriv l'Hashem im amay v'im Yisrael yisvakach. He's having a debate with his people about how powerful the relationship really is. The Harim should hear Riv Hashem, and the Esonim should hear it. The Esonim are Moizdei Aretz, the foundations of the earth. In other words, he's calling the mountains also Esonim. It's two expressions. Shimu Harim es Riv Hashem, the Esonim Moizdei Aretz. You should listen to what God is saying. So he's calling the Harim also the Moizdei Aretz, the Yesodis of the earth. Okay, what's the connection? The pasuk says in Shashir and Perek Beis, Kol Doidin is above Medalang Alharim Mekapetz Al Agvoyos. The voice Doidi comes from the word like Yedid, my friend, my best friend, from the word love. Anila Doidi, Kol Doidi, the voice of Doidi, of my Yedid, of my beloved, is coming, leaping over the mountains and skipping over the mounds, Gvoyos. So the pasuk means, what does this mean? Medaleg alaharim, it's referring to Hashem. Medaleg alaharim b'schus avis, mekapatz alagvoyas b'schus emayas. He skips over the mountains means he skips over many years and creates the redemption of Mitzrayim before its time because of the Harim, because of the Avos. And Gvoyas refers to the Imayas. Clearly we see, according to this Chazal's explanation of the Pasuk, Harim refers to Avos. And we see the Harim are called Eisanim. Eisanim, Shimu Harim, Esriva Hashem Eisanim Moiz De'aretz. Who's Harim? We see here, Kol Doidi Medaleg. Kol Doidi Hinis Eba Medaleg ala Harim. So the Avos are called Harim and they're called Eisanim. So the Avos are called Eisanim. So when it says Yerech Eisanim, it's the month when the Eisanim emerge into existence. In other words, month of Tishrei. Yeshuai Merminayin Shebenisin El Duavus Shenemar. The pasuk says also Melachim Perek Aleph, Melachim Aleph Perek Vav. Vahi b'shmoinim shana v'arba meis shana l'tzeis b'nei Yisrael meretz Mitzrayim b'shana reviz b'chodesh Zav b'chodesh Ziv hu ha'chodesh hasheni l'mloich shleim al Yisrael v'yiven abayis l'Hashem. It happened to be 480 years after the Jewish people left Mitzrayim. Shloima HaMelech builds the first Beis HaMikdash. But the pasuk identifies not only the year, 480 years after Yetzias Mitzrayim, also identifies Shana HaRevius, which means the 4th year since he became a king, but also the month. What is the month? B'chodesh Ziv. What's Chodesh Ziv? So the pasuk is Hu HaChodesh Hasheni. It's the 2nd month. B'chodesh Ziv is the 2nd month, which of course we would call the month of Iyar. Frag the Gemarah, what's Chodesh Ziv? Why is it called Chodesh Ziv? It's the month when Zivsane, how does he teach? Rabbi Litzman, Zivsane Olam, the light of the world, the luminaries of the world.
Radiant, it says here.
The radiant?
The radiant ones.
The radiant ones of the world. Ziv means a ray, a light, like Ziv Hashchina, right? Ziv means a glimmer of light. So the radiant ones, the one who shine, who light up the world, which are the Avos, this is the month they were born in. So the month of Iyar is called Chodesh Hasheni, it's called Chodesh Ziv. Now here we have a big problem. You just said that the Avos were born in Nisan. So Rashi tells us, Shenoldu by Zivsonei Olam, very interesting. Kishenis Chadesh Iyar, Noldu Kvar B'Nisan. If they were born in Iyar, you can't say the whole month of Iyar is a month of light. But since they were born in Nisan, so the moment Iyar came in, it was already a month filled with light, because they were born in the middle of Nisan. That's Pshat. Chodesh Hasheni is Chodesh Ziv. Why? Because Noldu Boy when? In Nisan. Noldu Boy in Nisan, Ziv Sanei Olam, the lights of the world, and therefore Nisan Iyar is already a full month of light. Obviously, it's not such an easy Pshat, because it does say Noldu Boy Ziv Sanei Olam. It's a strange vart. So that is Inami. You could say a little bit of a different vart. Nimshach Inami Zimnin the Nisan the Tkufa. Nimshach b'toich Iyar shalavana. Sometimes the Nisan of the Tkufa could enter into the Iyar of Lavana, can enter into the Iyar of the moon. In other words, they were born in Iyar, even though they were. We would say it's Chodesh Ziv, even though they're born in Nisan, but it's connected to Iyar. What's Pshat? You understand what Rashi is saying? What he's saying is as follows. Basically, sometimes the month of Nisan, according to Tkufas Hachama, goes into the month of Iyar. So Chodesh Iyar could be Chodesh Ziv because the Avos who were born in Tkufas Nisan. What do we mean? Basically, the solar year divides into 4 Tkufas, 4 periods. Tkufas Nisan, Tkufas Tammuz, Tkufas Tishrei, Tkufas Tevis. Tkufas Nisan, which we call the equinox in English, is the time when winter is officially over and it begins with the day that night and day hours are identical. The 12 hours for the day, 12 hours for the night. The 24-hour period of day and night is split up identically. That's Tkufas Nisan. It's what we call the beginning of spring. That goes for 3 months. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Lerech. And then you have Tkufas Tammuz. This is what we call summer begins. Tkufas Tammuz. Then you have Tkufas Tishrei. Tkufas Tishrei is again that day when the day and the night will be identical, and that will go 3 months, and then you have finally Tkufas Tevis. Every Tkufa is generally 3 months. Sometimes Tkufas Nisan begins in middle of our month of Nisan, according to the lunar calendar. That's why we said Chazal sometimes had to make an Ibriyar, a leap year, if they saw that Tesvav Nissen is going to happen before Tkufas Nissen. In other words, Tkufas Nissen, spring, which is based on the summer, is only going to begin in the middle of Pesach. So Pesach is not Chodesh Ha'aviv, it's not the month of spring, and the stalks may not even be ripe for the carbon oimer. That's why they have to add a month of Adar. So what happens when Tkufas Nissen starts in middle of the month of Nissen, according to the lunar cycle? Then what happens is the Chodesh Nissen of the Tkufa, which means the first 30 days of Tkufas Nissen, goes into the month of Iyar of Chachei Levana. So therefore Rashi says that's Pshat. Since sometimes Chodesh Nissen, according to Tkufas Nissen, basically goes into the month of Iyar, so therefore the month of Iyar is called Chodesh Ziv, because the Avos were born in Tkufas Nissen, in the time of Nissen. That's why we say B'Nissen Noldu Avos. Now here you have to understand why are we making it so complicated? It's all Zayin. Sometimes Iyar could be Nissen, yeah? But that's a way of saying it. That's a way of describing it. You're saying it, you're calling it B'Chodesh HaZein Hu Chodesh Zevin, and we have to make up Shettel that really it's the first month. Really, it's the first month. So why are you calling it the second month? Because Tkufas Nissen goes into the Tkufas Iyar. What's Pshat? The Pshat is that since we're talking about the Avos, when did the Jews start counting the system of the months of the moon? So it says before Yetzias Mitzrayim, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chadashim, Rishon Hu Lachem L'Chadshei Hashanah. So that's before Yetzias Mitzrayim. Here we're talking about the birth of the Avos. So since we're talking about the birth of the Avos, so therefore the count is according to the Tkufas. The count is according to the Tkufas, because you're dealing with Chachei Hachama. Remember, it was a chiddush of Yiddishkeit that the Jews should start counting the months of the moon. But since we're talking here about the birthday of the Avos, so it could be, even though we're talking in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, when we talk about the birthday of the Avos, we're talking about Tkufas Nissen. That's why we talk about Tkufas Nissen. But since Tkufas Nissen can go into the second month, so therefore he calls it B'Chodesh HaSheni, but it's talking about what? Chodesh Hasheni, what we call Chodesh Hasheni, but in the Cheshbon of the Avos it would be Tkufas Nissen. Sagt die Gemarah weiter. V'idach nami yaksiv b'yerech ha'yisanim. According to Rabbi Yeshua l'chayre, it says b'yerech ha'yisanim, and for the Gemarah Hasam, Rabbi Yeshua says Yerech ha'yisanim means, very interesting word, the tkifi b'mitzvahs. It's a month that Jews are powerful in mitzvahs. Yerech ha'yisanim, the month of the powerful ones, is not the Avos. The Avos were born in Nisan. It's tkifi b'mitzvahs. Rashi says, what's tkifi b'mitzvahs? Takiv b'mitzvahs. Shofar, Yom Kippur, Sukkah, Lulav, Arava, Nisach HaMayim. All these mitzvahs, it's a month that's filled with the power of mitzvahs, of Yiddish kinder. That's the uniqueness of Yerech HaYisana. Frag the Gemarah, V'idach nami, Rebbe Lezer knows Haksiv Chodesh Ziv. About Iyar is called Chodesh Ziv. And for the Gemarah, Hahu the Izbei Ziv Aliyalane. What he means is that in the month of Iyar, there's light, there's splendor in the trees. In other words, the trees start budding. They're producing their flowers and budding their fruits. That's when the trees become bright again. During the winter months, the trees are barren, they're orphaned, they're empty. When do the trees get back their zohar, their shine, their splendor, their glory? During this time, the month of Nisan, the month of Iyar. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda, this is what Rabbi Yehuda said, Hai man de nafak b'yayim Nisan. Somebody who goes out in the days of Nisan v'chozi, ilani de malav levi, and he sees trees that are blossoming, basically fruit trees that are already producing their flowers. This is what's called livluv. Livluv means when the tree blossoms its flowers. Later the flowers fall off and the fruits bud, the fruits emerge. But this is the state of livluv when the flowers come out. So Yehuda says you go out in the month of Nisan. Usually you won't see fruits yet, but you'll see the emergence, the blossoming of the flowers. Oimer, you say a special bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shaloi chiser me'elamei klum, ubara by brias toivas v'ilanas toivas lisnoyas ben bnei adam. It's a very interesting bracha. Blessed are you, Hashem, that you made nothing missing from the world. There's nothing missing in His world, and He created in the world wonderful creatures and wonderful trees so that people should be able to enjoy them. Lehisnoyes ben b'nei Adam. But this bracha, the Gemarah doesn't say b'shem malchus. The Gemarah says baruch. But in Shulchan Aruch, in the halachas of brachas, Siman Reish Chavav, you have this bracha when you go out b'bei Nissen, and it's b'shem malchus. We say baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. The Gerus in Torah and Shulchan Aruch is not lehisnoyes ben b'nei Adam, but leihanes b'hen b'nei Adam. But it's the same concept. That's why, according to Rebbe Lezer, it's called Chodesh Ziv. Sagt die Gemarah weiter. Man da Amar b'Nissen noldu. Rabbi Yeshua holds that the others were born in Nissen. Chodesh Ziv b'Nissen Mesu. He automatically holds that died in Nissen. Man da Amar Tishrei noldu b'Tishrei Mesu. That's why they argue not only about birth but also about the time of passing, because it's Haba Hatalia. Why? Frag the Gemarah, maybe not. Shenemar. This is based on the pasuk. Moshe tells the Jewish people on the day he passes away. Parshas Vayelech. Vayomer aleim, he said to them, B'meya ve'esrim shana anoichi hayoim lo yuchal oid lotzes v'lovai. Today I am a man of 120 years. I can't anymore lead you. Ein Talmud loimer hayoim. Frag the Gemarah, the word hayoim is superfluous. Somebody gets up and says, I am 120 years old. Obviously means today, not 20 years ago. Person gets up and says, I'm 50 years old. What does he mean? 30 years ago I was 50 years old. In 30 years obviously hayoim. When you're talking, he says, I'm 120 years old. When? 90 years ago you're 120. Today. So the word hayoim is unnecessary. Ma Talmud loimer. Why does the pasuk put in the word hayoim? B'me'ev esrim shana anoichi hayoim. Pshat is, Moshe was telling them, hayoim molu yama yishnoisei. Today is the day that my years and my days filled up. Hashem sits and fills up the years of tzaddikim from day to day and from month to month. In other words, that Moshe Rabbeinu says, not I'm 120 years. Stop. I'm 120 years today. On this very day I became 120 years. This is the day I was born, and it's ultimately the day that he passes away. So their years are filled in terms of months, month to month, and day to day. So it's not only they pass away the month they were born, even the day in the month. Shenemar, he brings the second pasuk, Es mispar yamecha amali, Parshas Mishpatim. I will fill up the number of your days. Es mispar yamecha amali. B'meila, when you say that the Avos were born in Tishrei, Rebbe Lezer says they passed away in Tishrei. If you say the others were born in Nissen, Rabbi Yeshua says they passed away in Nissen. Similar to Moshe Rabbeinu, who says b'me'ev esrim shana anoichi hayoim. No. What about Yitzchak? Yitzchak, both of them agreed that Yitzchak was born on Pesach. Rabbi Yeshua said Yitzchak was born on Pesach, and Rebbe Lezer also said Yitzchak was born on Pesach. By Pesach, there's no argument, and we'll soon see why everybody agrees that Yitzchak was born on Pesach. You see it from the Psukim. But if Yitzchak was born on Pesach, so when did Yitzchak pass away? So l'cha'ira, you have to say that what? That Yitzchak passed away, also Pesach. L'cha'ira, that's what you would say. Why doesn't the Gemarah say it? The Gemarah doesn't say here, nobody speaks about when Yitzchak passed away. It says, Rebbe Lezer says, B'Pesach noilad Yitzchak and B'Tishrei meisu Avos. L'chayri, he should say, B'Pesach meis Yitzchak. Rabbi Yeshua says, B'Pesach noilad Yitzchak. He says, B'Nissen meisu Avos. What about Yitzchak? How do you learn it? So l'chayri, you would say that Yitzchak also passed away Pesach. He was born Pesach, he passed away Pesach. The Turei Even, I saw yesterday, the Turei Even writes here, Shagas Aryeh in his commentary on Rosh Hashanah, says, if so, why didn't Rebbe Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua say, but Pesach meis Yitzchak? You're giving me the birth and the passing of the others. You're giving me the time that Pesach was, the time that Yitzchak was born. So why don't you say when Yitzchak meis? Why do you ignore the mitzvah of Yitzchak? So he tainas as follows. It's a chiddush here of the Turei Even. He says, the only maila in Memalish Nesem Shel Tzadikim Miyoim Liyoim is when this day, actually the year filled up. Memalish Nesem Shel Tzadikim, the year filled up. The year is full. He says, since before Matan Torah, we go back to his chiddush before Noach. Before Matan Torah, birthdays were not measured according to the day you were born. They were measured according to the Rosh Hashanah of the world, the birthday of the world. Whether it's Rosh Chodesh Nisan, according to Rabbi Yeshua, or Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. If I was born Chav Tes Elul, when was my first birthday? Not Chav Tes Elul. A day later. Rosh Hashanah, this is my birthday already. I'm already 1 year old, and now starts my second year. Start saying Kapitel Beis in Tehillim. The next Rosh Hashanah, I'm already 2 years old. I'm already going into my third year. I'm not. I was only 1 day. I'm not 1 year old. But that's your birthday. Your birthday is, they still have it in China. Your birthday is the Minyan Shnai Yisrael. And that was his Eichacha that earlier in the Gemarah. That's why we could prove, by he that Noach was 601 years old. When? Aleph Tishrei, Berishim Bechad L'Chayder. So the Gemarah proves from that what? That the Meir holds that 1 day in the year is considered a year. As the Torah, it doesn't make sense. Maybe you just say, Noach's birthday was on Rosh Chodesh Av. He was born Rosh Chodesh Av. That's it. He was born Rosh Chodesh Av. He was born on Pesach. He was born on Lag BaOmer. Whenever he was born before this time. When did the Mabul start? B'meila. The Mabul starts Yud Zayin Cheshvan. Yud Zayin Cheshvan, Noach was already 600 years old. We're assuming that he was born, say, Rosh Chodesh Av. Rosh Chodesh Av, he became 600 years old. It started his 601st year. And that's when the Mabul happened. When he was 600 years old. When did he become 601? The next year, Rosh Chodesh Av. Now you say, Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, the water was dry. How old was Noach? 601 years old. Because he was born Rosh Chodesh Av. 2 months ago, he was 601. What's the problem? Where's the Araya? That a year could be 1 day? He was already 2 months, 601 years old. Torah Evan is mechiach from here that the birthdays are counted according to Rosh Hashanah. According to Rosh Hashanah. Since it's according to Rosh Hashanah, so therefore, the Mabul started Yud Zayin Cheshvan. He was 600. When did he become 600? Rosh Hashanah. Whenever his birthday was. But that Rosh Hashanah he becomes 600. When does he become 601?
Rosh Hashanah.
The next Rosh Hashanah. And that's already called a year. That's the Raya of Reb Meir. So the Torah Evan says, if that's the case, let's understand. Before Matan Torah, this is how they used to count birthdays. If this is how they used to count birthdays, so then only a person who was born on Rosh Hashanah, you could say that if he passed away that day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mamali Shnoisav Miyayim Liyayim. If not, then he's not Mamali Shnoisav. Because his birthday happened on Rosh Hashanah, and let's say he passes away a month later, it doesn't work. So Meili says, since Yitzchak was born Pesach is never Rosh Hashanah. Pesach is the middle of the month. So there couldn't be Mamalish Neseyim Miyayim Liyayim. By the others who were born Tishrei or Nisan, you could say they were born Rosh Chodesh Tishrei or Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So he says Nisan and he says Tishrei. But Yeshua says they were born Rosh Chodesh Nisan. They passed away Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So it's Mamalish Neseyim Miyayim Liyayim, because Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the birthday of the world, and that's your own birthday too. So you die on the day of your birthday. Mashaker Rebelezer says Tishrei, but he says on Pesach you cannot say it. By Yitzchak you can't say it, because we know that he wasn't born on the first day when the year begins. So he says we don't know when he passed away. That's why the Gemarah doesn't get into it. You're going to ask Rosh Hashanah, Moshe Rabbeinu was before Matan Torah, and it's Zayin Adar. Moshe Rabbeinu was after Matan Torah, no? He was born before, but Nitna Torah, Nitna Torah v'nischat halacha, that now you start counting day to day. So Zayin Adar becomes Mamalish Nois of Miyayim Liyayim. That's what the Torah Heaven says.
Retroactively, his birthday changed.
Well, he was born Zayin Adar. Of them Dinkman sich nicht. The celebration change, the official change of the year. Yeah.
Avraham was before his time, so you shouldn't see the basic place of time as well. So Manisha, did he die on his birthday or did he die before the year?
No, mitzad the date. He could have died 5 years later on that day. But Malish Nesem Miyayim Liyayim is mitzad the date.
He's saying that the day he died is after that.
Yeah.
That was the day that
It was a full year, and it was a full year.
He
was born in Chodesh Tishrei, passed away in Chodesh
Now we know
Tishrei.
when the Maisa was with Adashin.
Same month. Zamshad he was born the first.
Now we know what the time was with the Adashin. It was the
Rosh Hashanah, you
It
say.
was the Evel, it was the Yom Evel, it was the Evel.
So this is right, Shiva.
Or Nisan. You say there was no, they didn't let chametz in the house, so there was nizid adasha because the house was clean already.
And right at the age of kids,
Yes.
Huh?
They live in Sfad, right?
Yeah.
Sfad country.
Sagt die Gemarah, Pesach noiled Yitzchak min nolan. Why is everybody agreeing that Yitzchak was born on Pesach? On this there's a pasuk. Hashem tells Avraham Avinu, Lamoyed oshuv elecha ke'es chaya u'lesaravein. Right? He tells Avraham Avinu after, in the beginning of Vayera, Hayipolim Hashem davar. Is there anything that's wondrous for Hashem? Lamoyed oshuv elecha ke'es chaya. Literally, Lamoyed means to the festival, the Yom Tov. Moyed means designated time. Like Va'ad, Moyed, is man kavua. To Moyed, I'm going to come back to you. Ka'es chaya, and Sarah will have a child. So the Gemara teaches us that. What's Lamoyed? Moyadim, we teach Eila Moyad Hashem Ikroi Kodesh Yamim Tovim. So basically, he's telling him, Lamoyed Ashuv Elecha, the next Yom Tov, I return to you, and Sarah has a child. The next Yom Tov. So when is he speaking to him? He's speaking to him in a time that he could tell him the next Yom Tov you're going to have a baby. Eimas Kai. When is this? When is he talking to him? Okay. What's Pshat? What is he talking to him? Dr. Azai. Ileme bePesach. If he's talking to him on Pesach, and he tells him, the Yom Tov that arrives first, you're going to have a baby then. You have here a big problem. Why? Ka'am Malay, he's telling him Batzeres, next Yom Tov, B'chamshin Yoimin Mikayolda. She's supposed to give birth after 50 days. Ela Dekai Batzeres. So he's on Shavuos, he's planning Shavuos, and he says, Lamoye, the next Yom Tov, you're going to have a child. V'ka'am Malay B'tishrei, Akati B'chamshin Yarchem Mikayolda. She's supposed to have birth in 5 months. Basically, Shavuos to Sukkos. So you have Tammuz of Elul, much of Tishrei, and much of Sivan, right? Tammuz of Elul is 3 full months, much of Tishrei till Sukkot, and much of Sivan after Shavuos. So 5 months she's going to have a baby, almost 5 months. Elul, you have to say, Koi b'chag. It was Sukkot. V'ka'am malei b'nissen. And he was telling him the next Yom Tov, what's the next Yom Tov? Pesach, he'll have a baby. That's the raya that Yitzchak was born on Pesach. So in other words, when he says Lamoyed Ashav Elecha, he means the next Yom Tov that comes first, you'll have a baby. So now we have to distance the Yom HaPsura from the Yom HaLeida. From the Yom HaLeida. What we're going to ask that? In other words, to be able to find pregnancy.
6 months is still.
Huh? Now, it can be it was Rosh Hashanah, because you can't give birth in Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot. That's not even a question. It can be it was Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. It's not going to work. It has to be Sukkot, and therefore Yitzchak is born the next holiday, so that's why it's Pesach. Frag the Gemarah, Akati b'shita yarchem mikayaldi, you still only have 6 months. Let's say Sukkot, right? So what do you have? You have Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevis, Shvat, Adar is 5 months. You have a little part of Tishrei and a little part of Nisan, so you want to make another month. So it's 6 months still. Where do you have a baby? Tana, Zog the Gemarah, we have a Braisa, Oysa Shana Mu'beres Oysa. The year Yitzchak was born was a leap year, so there was 7 months between Sukkot and Pesach, and she could give birth in 7 months. Frag the Gemarah, this doesn't make sense. You gave me another month, Emes. You gave me another month. However, the fact is, the day that Avraham Avinu is told he's going to have a baby, that's the day that Sarah actually starts seeing blood. She becomes a nida. She becomes a nida that day. How do we know this? The Gemarah says about a Mitzvah that Avraham Avinu asked her to prepare bread, to bake bread. L'poil, he never delivered the bread, even though he told her Lushi Vasiyuga. So Chazal say, Vasepis, that's the remez in the Torah, that because she was making it, but because she started to get her cycle, which was a chiddush because she was old, the bread became tummy, the flour, the baby became tummy, so he didn't serve it to the malachim. So he only served the yogurt and the milk and the meat, not the bread. That's why that bread suddenly disappeared. Frag the Gemarah, if she became a nida, so let's understand this. Avraham observed the Torah before it was given. That's the premise. So soif kimad limar yom tumah. If you're going to take away the days of tumah, batzri lahu, you don't have 7 months. Let's say Sukkot. He was told on Sukkot that he's going to have a baby Pesach, but that day she becomes a nida. So now you have to count at least 7 days. So you don't have your 7 months. You don't have your 7 months, right? L'cha'oida, you could say that Avraham was told the news on the first day of Sukkot, and Yitzchak was born Acharon Shal Pesach. If so, it would work. Why would it work? Because take off 7 days of Sukkot, the first 7 days of Sukkot, right? And let's say she conceives a baby on Shmini Atzeres, the last day of Sukkot. You have 7 days of Sukkot, yeah? She goes to the mikveh, Mitzoi Hoshana Rabbah, the night of Shmini Atzeres. She conceives a child. When? Shmini Atzeres, yeah? The end. Now go 7 months with a leap year, and Pesach, the last day of Pesach, is the end of 7 months. That's what the Ritva asks. You could still say, take off 7 days, say the birth of Pesach was the end of Pesach, and the day that she became a nida was the first day of Sukkot. But he says, since it says L'moyed hazeh ka'es chaya, it's mashma, L'moyed hazeh ka'es chaya. Just like we're living now, it's going to be the same time of the Yom Tov. Just like now it's the first day of Yom Tov, Yitzchak is going to be born on the first day of Yom Tov. But it can't be because you have to take off 7 days. So the Gemarah answers, Amma Mazutra said, Afilu l'man da'amar, even the one who holds, Yoiledes Letitia, that a woman who gives birth after 9 months, Eini Yoiledes l'makutayin, she does not give birth for partially 9 months, months that are incomplete. Makutayin means chopped off months. In other words, you need 9 full months. Even he agrees that Yoiledes l'shiva, Yoiledes l'makutayin. When it's a preemie, when she's giving birth earlier, after 7 months, it could be Yoiledes l'makutayin. In other words, 6 and change, not full 7. Shenemar, it says by the birth of Shmuel, Vayihi l'tkufos hayamim, Vatar Chana Vatelet Ben. What's that? L'tkufos hayamim. Shmuel is born after Tkufos and after Yomim. What's Pshat? So it doesn't say how many. So when it doesn't say how many, you always go the minimum because you can't add. Tafasta merubah tafasta. So that's minimum is always Shtayim. Miyut Tkufos Shtayim. Miyut Yomim Shtayim. So when it says Tkufos hayamim, we say after 2 Tkufos and after 2 days. We learned that there's 4 seasons of the sun, 4 tkufas. So 2 tkufas is 6 months. Every tkufas is 3 months. 2 tkufas is 6 months. This means that Shmuel was born l'tkufas hayamim after 6 months and 2 days. So in other words, if you're giving birth prematurely for 7 months, it could be mikutayin. If this is the case, Sarah could give birth
6 months and 2 days.
6 months and a few days. If that's the case, it could be she became a nida when?
First day.
On Sukkot, not a problem. And then she conceives at the end of Sukkot, because she has to go to the whole process.
First,
After the 7 days, remember this is before B'nai Yisrael Echmiru Al Atzman. So they, what? It's only 7 days. That night you go to Shivas Tam, as we learned before Shivas Yom Tiyah B'nidasa. Now you count the months. He's born on Pesach. It's not 7 full months. It's already completely fine. So Mela Hashem told us to him on Sukkot, and what's the moyed? The moyed that Yitzchak is born would be when? Would be on
Pesach.
On Pesach. Would be on Pesach, and Mela from here we know that he was born on Pesach. But Pesach Nelad Yitzchak.
But if you say, if you would say it was an Ibn, in the Shula, it's not going to be good with the whole Pshat and the...
Why?
The Sunnah,
What's the problem?
Didn't count lunar months, only years. Only Kifas. Remember Kifas?
No.
Kifa showed the extra 30 days.
You want to say that once you say this, you don't need to say it was an Ibayar. That's what you're saying. You have like this. You have Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevis, Shvat, Adar. You have 2 others. So it's 6 months. You don't have your full 7 months. You're fine.
No, we're saying that since we use Mishnah with the Lashon Tekufas, it shows that we're going with so. No, it means 3 months. It doesn't mean according
It
to
says we're not counting the months. So
Says we're not counting months on the on Ear. Yeah, we had a question on Ear. Second.
If they were born Nisan, why are you saying they were born in this Chodesh Iyar is not Ziv, Nisan is Ziv.
We didn't have that idea of counting years by months. Now we will tell it because a different year.
Agav, the Emes says, according to the second Pshat in Rashi, it's hard to say what the Turei Even says that the Avos were born on Rosh Chodesh. Because Rashi says they were born when in Chodesh Ziv. Because the Tkufa of Nisan went into the month of Iyar. The Tkufa of Nisan went into the month of Iyar, so therefore, right, when you say Ben Nisan, it's the Nisan that was in Iyar. In our Cheshbon of Iyar, it was Tkufas Nisan. Right? So you say they were born in the month of Nisan, which would be in our Cheshbon of Iyar. If it was Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it would be hard. You have to say the first pshat of Rashi. That already when Iyar came in, it was already Ziv. There's a problem though, the whole Cheshbon of the Turei Even, which he himself points out, that is, it's a big tzarech and it's not so simple. There's a very, very interesting Rashi in Parshas Kisisa. He asks a question. He says there's a cheshbon here that doesn't work out. What's the cheshbon? It says, Hashem in Parshas Hashem says to count the Jewish people. Yeah? Kol oiver alav, couldn't to count the Jewish people. Okay. So he says Azoi, that the Jewish people were counted, it says, Be'echad l'chodesh hasheni, the first day of the month of Iyar, after they came out of Mitzrayim, in other words, a year later. The Mishkan was put up a month earlier on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and then they were counted Rosh Chodesh Iyar. So he says, the count here of Machzas HaShekel, which was used for the Mishkan, this count had to be before Rosh Chodesh Iyar, because Rosh Chodesh Iyar already the Mishkan was up. So this count happened after Yom Kippur. So there was a count after Yom Kippur, the first year when they left Mitzrayim, and then there was a second count, the month of Iyar, once the Mishkan was put up. So Rashi, you have a problem. The number is the same. In both cases, the Jews were 600,000, 3,550, 603,550. For Rashi, he says, look at both counts. The count that was done after Yom Kippur, they have the same number, and the count that's done after Yom Kippur, and the count of Chodesh Iyar is exactly the same number. Now, the count is only Jews, males from 20 and over. He says, you're going to tell me that in 7 months, not one Jew became from 1920? No Jew was born Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevis, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, or died? It's impossible. He says, obviously there were people during the first count who were 19. I may be 19 Yom Kippur. My Yom Haledes is Chanukah. Now when Chodesh Iyar comes, I'm already a 20-year-old boy. I'm 20 years of age. He says it's impossible. Doesn't work. There's something very, very off here. Entfet Rashi. Okay? When you were counting people's birthdays, Yom Kippur and Iyar, it was considered the same year. When you're talking about Yitzias Mitzrayim, you count from Nisan. Because Yitzias Mitzrayim, you count from Nisan. So therefore, Rosh Chodesh Nisan starts a new count in terms of the years of Yitzias Mitzrayim. So Iyar is called a new year. He says in terms of birthdays, if both of us are within Tishrei, from Tishrei to Tishrei, it's the same year. So therefore, if when Rosh Hashanah came in, I was 19 years old, right? I'm still 19?
Nobody died.
I'm going to become 19. My birthday is going to change only the next year. So Mela, whoever was 20 Yom Kippur, because Rosh Hashanah was considered 20, they remained 20 for the year. If you were 19, you remained 20 for the year. That's Rashi's Chiddush here.
That's 7 months.
That's like
Okay.
the cutoff. That's like telling me that his birthday changed, but there's a cutoff there. That's a cutoff there.
But this is after Matan Torah. So Mela, the Turei Even is that Moshe Rabbeinu, Zion, not there. Once Matan Torah happened, everything changed. Now it goes to personal dates, right? But this is after Matan Torah, and there were no personal dates. Clearly, Rashi, that after Matan Torah, they still counted birthdays, not by the day they were born.
Only by counting. Only by counting.
Right, so you have to understand why suddenly when it comes to counting here, you're not 20. You are 20. You're not 20.
Would have been very complicated.
tempting tzipor. Maybe there you orient it. It's not even visual oriented.
That I might have had.
Jeder hat 7 Namen, sehr schwer mit der Beste.
Even though,
Schon ein Film.
Interessant, huh?
even though.
Okay, we're up to Yud Aleph and Mid Aleph on the bottom. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines from the bottom, Yud Aleph and Mid Aleph. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua continue their arguments about when the Avos were born and when the Avos passed away. But that's only when it comes to Avraham and Yaakov. When it comes to Yitzchak, both agree that Pesach is the birthday of Yitzchak. Why would they both agree to that? They're arguing about the Avos, and they each have their psukim. Yerach HaIsanim is the month of Tishrei, the month, according to Rabbi Lezer, when the Isanim were born. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, Isanim means Tekifi b'mitzvahs, they're powerful in mitzvahs. On the other hand, Rabbi Yeshua has Chodesh Ziv, year is called Chodesh Ziv, the month when the light is here already. And Rabbi Lezer says, no, that's the Ziv HaIlanis. It's the ray of the trees. So when it comes to Pesach, but when it comes to Yitzchak, there's no argument. So the Gemarah says, because this is a pasuk. It's learned out from a pasuk. What's the pasuk? The Parshas Vayera. Hashem promises, Avraham Avinu l'mayed ashav elecha k'yischayu l'sara bein. Now what's the definition of l'mayed? It means for the mayed, I'm going to return to you. Like now, you'll be alive, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. So l'mayed could mean the designated time, although in the vernacular of Torah, of Tanakh, it's a Yom Tov, Elam Moyad Hashem Mikrai Kodesh. Even though then, of course, there was no regular celebration of Yom Tovim, you're dealing before there were Jews. The first Jew was Avraham Avinu, so you're not dealing with our calendar. We speak about Shavuos, Chanukah, Purim, Tu B'Shvat, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah. Nonetheless, the Gemarah says, when Hashem says L'Moyed, the concept of the holidays existed even before. As the Gemarah says, Avraham observed the whole Torah before it was given, and therefore the concept of Moyed existed even before, even though of course it was celebrated in its own way with its own laws, and the stories didn't happen yet. I mean, you couldn't celebrate Pesach for Yitzias Mitzrayim hundreds of years before Yitzias Mitzrayim. You couldn't celebrate Shavuos for Matan Torah or Sukkot for Ananei HaKavod hundreds of years before there were clouds. But nonetheless, certain themes that the holidays represent existed even in the time of the Avos. And that's why we see certain patterns and rituals that they did. So when it says La Moyed Ashav Elecha, it means the next Yom Tov. Which would be the next Yom Tov? And there should be time. There should be time for pregnancy. So the only way you could come up with that is if you put the conversation Sukkos, and you say that the birth was on Pesach. Anything else wouldn't work. If he was talking to him on Pesach, it would mean the birth was Shavuos. That's impossible. To speak to him on Shavuos, it means the birth was Sukkos. To speak to him on Rosh Hashanah and the birth was Sukkos, Avada, impossible. So what are you left with? You're left with Sukkos to Pesach. Even that the Gemarah struggles with, because you still need your 7 months, and comes up with 2 ideas. Number 1, it was a leap year. We have a brayso that it was a leap year, so that gives us an extra month. It still doesn't solve the problem of 7 full months. However, we've learned that preemies who are born 7 months, not 9 months, could sometimes be born before 7 full months, 6 months and change. And therefore he speaks to him on Sukkot, and Pesach is the day of the birth. So somebody asked a question, how do we b'chal know you spoke to him on Yom Tov? Maybe he didn't speak to him on Yom Tov b'chal. Why is the Gemarah struggling that he spoke to him on Sukkot and has to happen Pesach? The answer is Pashat. Let's say he spoke to him Erev Sukkot. What would be the next Yom Tov? Sukkot. That for sure wouldn't work. So what are you going to tell me? He spoke to him at Yom Kippur. The next Yom Tov is Sukkot. So when you speak to him Elul, the next Yom Tov is Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or Sukkot. It's not going to work. When you say the next Yom Tov, it has to be on Sukkot. Because if you do it after Sukkot, then you're just giving yourself less time. That's why the Gemarah is nicht negeya that it happens Sukkot. What's negeya is that the next Yom Tov, there should be time. The next Yom Tov, the most time you have is if it was on the previous Yom Tov. Because it was after the previous Yom Tov. The next Yom Tov is less time. That's what's negeya here. Okay, I hope that's clear, yeah?
They touched Lamaya to the designated time.
That's true.
They didn't know the Gemara.
That's true. That's true. If you look in Rashi, I think.
Yeah, Rashi Chumash.
Yeah, what does he say in Vayera? You still remember, huh?
So the street of the
Yes, the Yankees.
Huh?
Yes, the Yankees.
The third street of a Kaisel.
Yeah, that's going to be brought in Tosfos. So after the Malachim eat by Avraham Avinu. The 3 guests eat by Avraham Avinu. They ask him, where is Sarah? He says in the tent. Vayomer, one of the Malachim says, Shoiv ashav elecha ka'es chaya u'lesara bein. So that's what the Malach says. He doesn't speak about a moyed. He says, I'm going to return to you. Shoiv ashav, I'm going to return to you. Later, Sarah is laughing and she says this is impossible. Hashem says, why is she laughing? Hashem already gives the time l'moyed. So Rashi Taka says, La'oisei moyed hamiyuchet shekavati l'cha esmael l'moyed hazeh b'shana hacheres. That moyed that I established for you yesterday, that moyed the next year.
All year.
Yeah, well, Rashi Taina is here. This is what we're going to now learn about. Rashi says, Ka'es Chaya, this time next year. Pesach Chaya. It was Pesach, and the next Pesach, Yitzchak was born. And that's why it says that Lot prepared matzahs off of Vayechelu. Why did Lot prepare matzahs for his guests? So Rashi says, Pesach Chaya. This comes from Medrash Rabbah, and a Medrash called Seder Olam. So this is what Tosfos is going to discuss now.
But there's a problem, because when the Malachim came to Sarah, she couldn't go because she was coming, right? She had the Rashi says close, she was coming at the time. But when she says, I would love to Achi Blois Yesh Liedna, whatever.
Titzchak Sarah.
So obviously the vest, that wasn't a real vest that she had at that point, because it says, I didn't have it yet. I don't know what that was.
She didn't think it was a regular. It was part of the regular cycle.
Right. It wasn't enough to make. It was enough to make a tomei, but it wasn't enough.
Right.
To be the sabra.
Right.
So obviously at that point.
When
was that point? When Batiskak Sarah became, but that was after Pesach, you know.
Well, from Rashi it's mashma the next day. Yeah.
It was the next day, so that was after. That was on Pesach still. It was on Chal's Pesach.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's see. So this is the Gemarah's Raya that Yitzchak was born Pesach. It says Lamoyed, the next Yom Tif, and you need some space, and the most space you have is between Sukkot and Pesach. So therefore, it happened Sukkot, and the Gemarah reconciled how that worked with her Tumah of Nida and Mubaris. According to that, yeah. I mean, it doesn't say in Chumash, but that's how Rashi learns in Chumash.
Yeah. The Rashi in Chumash.
Yeah. So here's a Tosfos on Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. Ela dekoi b'chag v'ka'amal b'nisim. Koi b'chag means they were standing on Yom Tif, Sukkos, Chag is Sukkos, and he tells him, v'ka'amala, and he tells him, b'nissen, you're going to have a baby. And that's why everybody agrees that the Pesach noilad Yitzchak. So Tosfos, Sugya d'Shmaita, the Sugya here, Masechta d'Shoshana, gives us the indication, is mashma, is muchach actually, Sugya d'Shmaita muchach, it's not just mashma, it's muchach, it's demonstrative, it's clear. The B'tishrei, Nimoil Avraham Avinu. There is another element here. That in Tishrei was also the time when Avraham Avinu had his circumcision, his bris. Why? Maybe not. The Bepedek HaSeicheres HaPoyelim in Mesechta Baba Metzia. In the Pedic that begins HaSeicheres HaPoyelim Baba Metzia Daf Pevav Amar. The Gemarah says over there that B'shlishi Shal Mila Bo Atzlei HaMalach. Yeah. The guests came, the angels came to visit the third day after Milah. Now that doesn't say in Chumash. In Chumash it says at the end of Lech Lecha that he had a bris. The next scene is Vayerei Love Hashem Beiloinei Mamrei, and he's sitting by the tent. So again, we learn with Rashi that he was relaxing. Hashem didn't want he should have to deal with Archim, so Mele took out the son, and Avraham Avinu was yearning for guests, and that's when he saw the three guests, and it was B'yom Shlishi Limilasa. That comes from a Gemarah in Bab Metzia. Just you have to always remember what says clearly in Chumash, and what is an interpretation in Chumash. So it was the third day of Milah that they came. That's when this pasuk was told to him. Now, if we're saying here in Gemarah that this happened on Sukkot, so when did the bris happen? It didn't have to happen on Sukkot, but it had to happen on Tishrei. Right? Sukkot is the middle of Tishrei, so it had to happen 3 days before Sukkot or somewhere there. Because L'moyed Asher V'elecha happened on Sukkot, and that was done, that was said a few days after his bris. So it's clear, it's muchach that the milah of Avraham Avinu was in Tishrei. And the truth is, we have another source. Over Pirkei the Rebbe Eliezer Nami. There's a famous medrash called Pirkei the Rebbe Eliezer, the chapters of Rabbi Eliezer, which is the medrash that was taught by Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus, who we're learning a lot here about, right? So this is a very authoritative source of the Tanoim. And Pirkei the Rebbe Eliezer there goes through a lot of the history of the beginning of the Jewish people, and he says, the B'Yom Kippurim Nimel Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu had his bris on Yom Kippur. So Pirkei Rebbe Lezer says, clearly you have a second source, from a different source, that the Milah was on Tishrei. V'hashta, but if this is the case, if he had his bris on Yom Kippur, now the Malachim come to him on the third day of the bris, this means, Hadam Rinan B'chag, Lav Dafka. So when it says that this Malachim come to him on Sukkot, it doesn't mean Mamash Sukkot. The Shnei Yamim Lefnei HaChag. Given the Nimel B'Yom Kippur, since he has a bris on Yom Kippur, and you're telling me that on the third day they're coming to him, so this is already 2 days before Sukkot, because they come to him on the third day of Milah. When would that be? L'chayda, that would be Yud Gimel Tishrei, right? If the bris was Yud, so unless you count Yud itself, so then if you count Yud itself, it would be Yud Yud Aleph Yud Beis.
Still, it's not Sukkot. It's still not Sukkot.
Right, it's still not Sukkot. But then it would be more than 3 days before Sukkot. It would be more than 2 days before Sukkot. But if you say you count 3 full days, so the bris was, let's say, Yom Kippur sometime, so Til Yud Aleph is 1 day, Til Yud Beis is another day, Til Yud Gimel is a third day, and then the third day on Yud Gimel Tishrei they come to him.
You said yesterday 7 days, no?
No, 1 second. So they come to him Yud Gimel. They come to him Yud Gimel Tishrei, right? He's told Lamoyed Oshavei Lecha K'Eis Chayil L'Sara Bein. When is that? It doesn't mean Sukkot, even though it's still Erev Sukkot, it means Pesach. Now Sarah becomes a Nida then. Sarah becomes a Nida, so that's 7 days. There can't be conception yet, right? So that's the first 7 days. Let's say Yud Gimel at night. So you have Yud Dalet, Tesvav, Tezayin, Yud Zayin, Yud Ches, Yud Tes Chaf. Okay? Chaf at night, which is what we call the night of Hashanah Rabbah. The night of Hashanah Rabbah was the night of the Tara for Sarah, and perhaps she conceived that night. So now you have from the end of Tishrei, and you go through the months, and in Pesach, Yitzchak is born on Pesach. So Ktoisves, given the Nimel B'Yom Kippurim, so they came 2 days before Sukkot, which is Tesvav. Va'af al gav the mashma l'moyed rishon. Even though then we're stuck with a problem, because Hashem says l'moyed, the first moyed, and the first moyed would be Sukkot, because this is Yud Gimel Tishrei. Even in Yudalit Tishrei, the first moyed is Sukkot. That means Pesach. Yitzchak is supposed to be born a day later. He says you're right, but hachi ka'amar, it means l'moyed rishon achar achag zeh dekaimeba. What we mean is the first moyed after hachag hazeh, after this Yom Tov that we are now celebrating, that we are now standing in. The ki'ilu kaimi b'chagdami kiven the lehava b'kiyim shnei yamim lefanov. It's like it's already a sukkahs the kamatzav, you know. It's Yud Gimel Tishrei, Dalet Tishrei. The next Yom Tov is Pesach. It's not sukkahs. The next Yom Tov is sukkahs technically, but you're already in a matzav of sukkahs. That's how Tosfos is reconciling the Pirkei Rebbe Lezer with our Gemarah. Because if not, you're back to square one. The Gemarah of Metziah says they came on the third day of Milah. Pirkei Rebbe Lezer says the Milah was Yom Kippur. In our Gemarah, you could say the Milah was Erev Sukkahs. You could say the Milah was Yud Beis Tishrei. It's not a problem. But in Pirkei Rebbe Lezer it says it was Yud Tishrei. So Tosfos has to say 2 days before Sukkot is considered that you're in Sukkot. But Mela, the next Yom Tov is Pesach. And according to the conclusion, the Yeledis L'Shiva, Yeledis L'Mukotaya, that it's possible for a woman to give birth 7 months pregnancy, and it's Yeledis L'Mukotaya, meaning Mukotaya means chopped off months. It's not 7 complete months. You can have 6 plus. And therefore she could give birth in the beginning of the 7th month. According to this, according to this cheshbon of Tosfos, that really they came Yud Gimel, you don't have to answer that it was a leap year. You could work it out, even if Adar only was 1 Adar that year. Why? So Tosfos says, the chimadlis nami yemei tumah. Madlis means take off. Even if you're going to take off the days of Tumah, of Sarah, because that day, we see she becomes a Nida. So you have to take off 7 days for Tumah, right? Shivas Yamim Tia Benidasa, even if she sees blood for 7 days. But those 7 days got to go over the cheshbon, because there's no conception then, because there's no intimacy then. And also biologically, you have to have a certain matzav to have conception. Again, it's not pshat. We say the whole thing was a nes mitchila v'atzayv. The nes was that Sarah could be like a young woman, but after that, the process was alpi teva. Famous drasha saran. Hashem usually doesn't want to break the laws of nature. The laws of nature are chukei hateva, have a certain sacredness to them, have a certain dignity to them.
Huh? It's a Rambam.
Yeah, also, yeah. So therefore, Sarah needs 7 days. So when are those 7 days? So Tosfos says it's not a problem, even if you take off the 7 days. But you say that she already became a nida, perhaps on Yud Gimel Tishrei. If that's the case, Tavla Nami Belil Chamishi L'Chag. So she could go to the mikveh. She can go to the mikveh already on the 5th night. He means here the night after the 5th day of Yom Tov, right?
Yeah.
Because she sees the blood. Let's say Yud Gimel. So Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, Tesvav. Yeah. So you have Tesvav is the 3rd day. Tezayin is the 4th day. Yud Zayin is the 5th day. Yud Ches. Yud Ches. Yud Tes.
It's the day after.
She saw blood on Yud Gimel, say, because that's when the Malachim came.
Not like she describes it says it was the next day.
Right. And then so you have Yud Gimel is day 1, Yud Dalet day 2, Tesvav day 3, Tezayin, Yud Ches, Yud Tes Tishrei. Yud Tes Tishrei is day 7. Which day of Sukkot is Yud Tes Tishrei? Tesvav, Tezayin, Yud Ches, Yud Tes. Yud Tes is the 5th day of Sukkot. Leil Chamishi, Tosfos doesn't mean here Leil Chamishi, the night before Chamishi. The night after Chamishi, meaning the night of Chav Tishrei. Erev Hashanah Rabbah, that's the night that she goes to the mikveh. If she goes to the mikveh that night, so then Yitzchak could be conceived that night between Avraham and Sarah. But Mela, what happens now? So Yitzchak is being conceived when? Chav Tishrei, the night of Chav Tishrei, right? Mitzvah Yites. Yud Gimel Yidal Tesvav Tezayin Yud Ches Yites. Mitzvah Yites. You're good. So Chav Tishrei is the night of conception. Now let's say it wasn't a leap year. So let's go through. So you have Chav Cheshvan is 1 month. Chav Kislev, Chav Tevis, Chav Shvat, Chav Adar is 5th month. Chav Nisan is full 6 months. When is Acharon Shel Pesach? Chav Aleph Nisan. So let's say it was 6 months and a day, and Yitzchak was born Acharon Shel Pesach. Ve'efshe deyolda b'yoyim Acharon Shel Pesach, which is, I said Chav Aleph, Chav Beis, right? Tesvav Nisan Tezayin Yud Zayin Yud Ches Yud Tes. Chav Aleph. I don't know why it had to be 8 days. I don't know. It could be Chaf Aleph. I was right. You know, we do 8 days. We do 8 days because Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golius. Avraham Avinu probably didn't have this issue of Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golius, especially he was living in Eretz Yisrael. So Mela, Yitzchak was born Chaf Aleph or Chaf Beis. No, it says Pesach. You're saying if Erev Sukkot could be Sukkot, Issachar could be Pesach. That's good. As long as good. There's a particular shul here in this area that they almost never say Tachna. It's always a month before Pesach, a month after Pesach, a month before this, a month this, a month. So it's Shira Matzev. It's already a Matzev. You go in, there's Friday no Tachna, Sunday no Tachna.
Actually, this Thursday there's no Tachna. We haven't figured out why. Chav Shvat, what day is that?
Okay.
We have the chart, so we have the...
So I'll call upon him. So Yitzchak is born. You need 7 months. Well, we said that you don't need 7 full months. Once you have 6, you're good. So if Yitzchak was conceived Chav, so Chav Nisan is 6 full months, even if it wasn't a leap year. So Chav Aleph Tishrei or Chav Beis Tishrei, she can give birth. So Tosfos is Mechadash, you don't need any more the leap year answer. You don't need the leap year. If you wouldn't say Yud Gimel Tishrei, you do need the leap year. Why? Because without it, you don't have 6 plus. You have 6 in the day. You need those extra 2 days. Once we got those extra 2 days from the Pirkei de Rebbe Lezer that says the middle was Yom Kippur, so Tosfos is Mechadish. With a leap year is noch beser. Amachaya. With a leap year, what do you have?
7 months.
You have mamash 7 months. You don't need Mukotayim. You have mamash 7 full months according to this. Once you have this vart, Mekotayim works. You don't need the leap year. But the Braisa says it was a leap year.
He's changing the Braisa.
He's not mamash changing the Braisa. He's reconciling our sugya with the idea that the bris was on Yom Kippur. That's it. Because we see clearly from Baba Metzia that the bris happened 3 days. If you say the bris didn't happen 3 days before, when you read Chumash, you don't have to say any of this. You could say the bris happened 1 month. And at some point, Hashem appeared to him. Rashi, the Chazal make the connection that Vayere, love Hashem, was a response to the bris. Doesn't say that in Chumash.
Rashi brings a Gemarah.
It's important when you read Chumash just to see how it says, and then to see what the Chazal did with it. It says he appeared to him. Why did he appear to him? I don't know. He appeared to him. Rashi says it was a well visit. It was Bika Chayla.
Rashi brings the Gemarah in Soite.
That what?
Yom Shlishi L'Milusa. Is that the Gemarah in Soite? I don't know.
Yom Shlishi right away. No Vayeda love Yom Shlishi. Soite Yudalad, yeah.
That's what?
Yom Shlishi L'Milasa. Yobah Kadosh Baruch Hu B'Shal B'Shleima. Also Soite and Baba Metzia.
How do we know there was in
What Tosfos brings about Metzia Peivav.
How do we know the
the
Chesed
Gemara
was
is-
in Kippur?
Perché Rabbi Lezer.
That's a Gzeir Shava. Because it says at the end of Lech Lecha, if I'm not mistaken, Be'etzem Hayoim Hazeh Nimel Avram. Be'etzem Hayoim. What Be'etzem Hayoim Hazeh? You could say it means 12 o'clock, huh?
Yishmael B'nai also.
What?
He said Yishmael B'nai?
Yeah. Nimel Avram v'Yishmael B'nai. What's Be'etzem Hayoim Hazeh? So one more place we have Be'etzem Hayoim Hazeh, which is when it comes to Yom Kippur.
Cheers with Shine.
Right. So we learned Be'etzem Hayoim Hazeh. I think.
You have everything, but the Bible, everything's best.
Right.
Rashi says it was Avram's birthday also, no?
Avram's birthday?
Shemala L'Avram Tzadik Teshana.
Avraham, no?
Oh, you mean.
So it must
When
be,
HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the order.
if it was in Kippur, we have a source when Avram's birthday was.
Oh, you mean according to the Shitta that he was born on Tishrei. On Tishrei, and he say it was Yom Kippur.
The Tishrei Nela.
But according to Rashi, this is all Pesach, so.
Right.
So he was born a few days before Pesach. But that's going to be the discussion now. So at now, it's clear this all happened on Sukkot, the bris was Yom Kippur. Sure. Next shtickl. Sagt Tosfos weiter. Ella, we have a problem. The problem is, this is all Hashanah Torah. Meshum damrin b'seder olam. We have a tradition in the Sefer Seder Olam of a Mechilta, the Parshas Vayisur B'nei Yisrael Ramses, and a Mechilta, which is the Medrash on Parsh Shmois. On the pasuk Vayisur B'nei Yisrael Ramses and Parshas Boy, it says the B'tasvav B'Nisan Nolad Yitzchak.
Thursday.
Yitzchak was born the first day of Pesach, not Acher and Shal Pesach, which is the end of Nisan, Chav Bezer, Chav of Nisan, but Tasvav Nisan. If he was born Tesvav Nisan and Sarah became pregnant Chav Tishrei, you don't even have 6 full months unless you say it was a leap year. So Tosfos says, really, you have to say it was a leap year if you say he wasn't born the end of Pesach, the beginning of Pesach. Umiyu, we should just add. Umiyu, however, if we're mentioning the Seder Olam and the Mechilta, you have to add something else. Umiyu pligi yadehach. But the Seder Olam and the Mechilta anyway argue with our Gemarah. Why? The Kamar Nami, the B'tasvav B'Nisan, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yim Avraham, or B'tasvav B'Nisan, Bo HaMalachim Levasra. Because they say, when did Avram have the Hisgalus of Hashem? When did Hashem appear to Avram and speak to him? Vayere Lav Hashem. This happened when? On Tesvav Nisan. And that's the day that the Malachim came to give him the good news that he's going to have a baby. We are learning that the Malachim came in Tishrei, the Milah was in Tishrei, Hashem came in Tishrei, Vayere Lav Hashem, Malachim came in Tishrei, and that's when he promised him. And we're telling you from Seder Olam that Yitzchak was born Tesvav Nisan. But in Seder Olam, if you want to be consistent, he says there was a year in between. Hashem's promise was in Pesach, and Yitzchak was born 12 months later, Pesach Tesvav Nisan. So we're both agreeing that he was born Pesach. That is no argument. The argument is when he was told that he's going to be born. According to our Gemarah, it was on Sukkot, and therefore Tosfos makes the whole cheshbon that the bris was also on Tishrei and Yom Kippur, and that's when he was told before Sukkot. According to the Seder Olam and the Mechilta, and Rashi brings it also in Chumash Parshas Vayera, it happened on Pesach, and he was told that the birth is going to be Lamoyed Hazeh, Ka'ez Chaya, the same time next year. Not Lamoyed, the next Yom Tov. The next Yom Tov after Pesach is Shavuos. The Gemarah rejects it here. Not the next Yom Tov, but Lamoyed Hazeh, this Yom Tov, basically. The next time around, it's going to happen. So we have here a different Inyan. It doesn't say Lamoyed Hazeh. It's Lamoyed Asher Velach.
How was Tesvav the third day for Shlishi L'Milah? The bris was in Kippur.
No, obviously this is it's Midrash's Chalukas. Obviously, it's a different perspective. That's what he said. Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur. We have Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur. Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur is an interesting name. He was called Reb Meir, like we say Reb Meir Chazan. Yeah, Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur lived a little bit before Rashi. He was in Germany. He was from the early Chachmei Ashkenaz in Germany, and he was from the great poets of his day. Rashi lived in the 11th century, in the 1000s in France. Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur lived even before Rashi, and he was one of the great Ashkenazic Paitonim, the great Ashkenazic poets who wrote a lot of liturgy, and he wrote the Akdamas. The Akdamas that we say on Shavuos was written by Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur. So Tosfos says Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur, take a look. Yosad b'mayriv shel Pesach. Those who say the piyutim, ma'ariv of Pesach, bechlal the different tefillas. So there's a piyut, a poem that was said by the Meir Shliach Tzibur that was written. Huh? Yeah. Huh? Yeah, my Rav is. So what does he write? He writes, "Umatzes afa vayoichlu b'leilei Chag Pesach." He baked matzahs and he invited the guests, and they ate matzahs on the night of Pesach. In other words, Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur also holds that what the Malachim came on Pesach. There's also a source in Medrash Rabbah on the pasuk Lushi va'asi ugas. Avraham tells Sarah, "We have guests. Go knead the flour and the water and make cake." Hada Amris, Medrash Rabbah says, this is what you say. From here we learn, Hada Amris means from here we learn, Shepesach Chayu, that this was the time of Pesach. Shepesach Chayu was Pesach, and therefore Ugos was not stam Ugos, Kichlach, kokosh cake. Ugos refers specifically to
Lady fingers.
very good. Kosher LePesach, lady fingers, that would be fine for Pesach. Clearly, Shmura matzah, very good. Huh? Okay.
Change the name.
Men's fingers. It's not politically correct. So it's clearly wasn't Tishrei. Tishrei, you're not baking matzah. V'chol hani, all these sources. What are the sources? Mechilta, say the Olam Reb Meir Shliach Tzibur B'Reichus Rabbah. Hold that it was Nisan. Loi svirelei de lamayid oshav elecha keis chaya is lamayid rishon. They do not hold lamayid oshav elecha keis chaya means the next first Yom Tov. Ela kelaymar lamayid kazeh shehu Pesach. It says lamayid. Yeah, you could touch lamayid oshav elecha means the next Yom Tov, or lamayid means this Yom Tov. This Yom Tov, I'm going to come back to you. In other words, 1 year from now. So it works. It's a different shot in the pasuk. Just like we're alive now. No? Yeah. Chaya is usually the term we use for a yoledes. A kimpetarin is called a chaya. So l'chayra ka'es chaya would be like a ka'es yoledes. In other words, I will come back to you the next Yom Tov in the time when she has to give birth. Ulasaravein.
Just what it means, Targumunculus.
What? Yeah, Targumunculus. V'chei Targumunculus. Ka'es chaya, like I just said, ka'es the atun kayamin. Like this time when you're existing. In other words,
Life.
like ka'es chaya, just like this time when we're alive, I'm going to come back to you in such a time. What's pshat? Any time you come back, hopefully we're going to be alive. So it means the same time of the calendar. It's going to be Pesach. So when it says in Parshas Milah, the pasuk it says, Asher teiled l'chasara l'mayed hazeh b'shana ha'cheres. When he promises him that he's going to have a baby, and Sarah is going to give a baby, is going to have birth to you. And at the end of Lech Lecha it says, "As brisi akim es Yitzchak, Perik Yitzayin pasuk Chafalav, asher teiled l'cha Sarah l'mayed hazeh b'shana ha'acheres." The next year. So now we have a very interesting phenomenon. What's pshat b'shana ha'acheres? So the Medrash Tanchuma says, okay, Malamed, it teaches us, Shesarat lo srita b'koisel. Hashem made a srita, a scratch, a wall in the line, and he showed him that when the sun, no, this is Hashem because it's Parshas Lech Lecha. Hashem is speaking to him. Perik Yud Zayin Pasuk Chaf Aleph Lech Lecha, not Vayera, before the whole story of the Milah. He promises him when he changes his name. He says, "Sarah, I should not be called Sarah. She should be called Sarah." And you're going to have a baby, and I'm going to have a covenant with Yitzchak. Sarah is going to give birth Lamayid Hazeh. He does say Lamayid Hazeh, but here it's not Yom Tov. This is before the Milah. Lamayid Hazeh b'shana acher. What's Lamayid Hazeh? It's a strange thing. This time, what on the clock? So yeah, he makes a scratch in the wall, and he says Lamayid Hazeh. This time, when the sun reaches this place again, you're going to have a baby. So he says the Lashana Hacheres Al Karchach B'Svav Nissen Emar. when he says Lashana Acheres, it has to be Tesvav Nisan, the next year. Uboy b'yom nimel, and that day he had a bris, because this bracha was said on the day that it was the nimel. Uboy b'yom bo malachim b'shana zu, and that day the malachim came this particular year. So in other words, when you say Lashana Acheres, what's Lashana Acheres? If it was Sukkot, or if it was Tishrei, Gimel Tishrei, Pesach is not Shana Acheres. It's within the year. Unless you say that it was Tesvav Nisan, so then it was Be'emes L'Shana HaCheres. You had to go through the next year. It was a whole new Tishrei and a whole new Nisan. But Mele could be L'Shana HaCheres. So again, L'Shana HaCheres, according to this tradition, that you need a year, Srita B'Kaisel, so it's Tesvav Nisan, because if it was Sukkot, and then he says it's going to be Pesach, you're not going to have the sun reaching a similar point, because this is Sukkot, this is Nisan. But if it's Tesvav Nisan, so it's the same day, so the sun could reach a similar point. That's what he's typing. How do you type Lashana Acheres like our Gemarah? You have to say that the new year starts Nisan, right?
Not the same day. It's a solar year.
Huh?
It's a solar year.
Solar year.
It's not the same day. That's what it's
To be exact, it has
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
a solar year.
It has to be solar.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Ibo Bayom Nimal is referring to who?
You're right. Huh?
Ibo Bayom Nimal is
Yeah.
referring to who?
Tesvav Nisan. Avraham Avinu. Boy B'yam, that day he had a bris.
But this was 3 days after the bris.
Yeah.
Every day you could say exactly 1 year.
No. Oh, he wanted to say, what does it mean? Boy B'yam Bo Malachim B'Shana Zu. They didn't come on the day of the bris. That's what you mean. Why Taisu says Boy B'yam Bo Malachim B'Shana Zu? Boy B'yam Nimel, or Boy B'yam Bo Malachim B'Shana Zu.
Not on the third day.
Huh?
Not on the third day of the bris.
But why would he say that? Why he says Boy B'yam Bo Malachim? Boy B'yam.
It's not Baba Yoim.
It's 3 days later. He's saying why Boy B'yam?
A couple
If
days.
you made a street,
Make a
no,
difference.
one second. If you made a street, that means
No,
exact
say
day.
what? When you say a couple days, we say a couple days.
Boy B'yam
It's
Bo
right.
Malachim
We established
B'Suda
that
Zu.
already.
Rosh says, where we shouldn't start.
No, the day he had the tzivu, he did the milah. That's what Taisus is saying. Tzivu was Tesvav Nisan. Huh?
He had a shiloh when he should do the bris, he should do the Fahesya, or...
Yeah. But it was the day of the
But it's
tzivu.
in the middle of the
Exactly,
day.
Kasha. If Hashem already told Avraham he's going to have a child and a son, why do we need the whole drama of the Malach? Doesn't come in here, but clearly tells him.
Chayre for Sarah, they came to tell Sarah.
You can be born, you can consider it like 7.
Tema. Okay, weiter. Zog Taisus weiter. Tema.
That means 7 months. The other Shiva,
But now we have a question. What's the question? Chol hani damri b'tishrei ave. All the shittas that say it was Tishrei, which shittas? Our Gemarah. And Pirkei de Rebbe Lezer. It was all Tishrei. Heichi mekayim ahu kra l'moyed hazeh b'shana acheres. How do they explain this pasuk? Sarah will give birth this moyed the next year. With this, which is about Nisan, in other words, the next year. What's the problem? Ve'echi tachen loy mashen etztava bepesach v'loy nimel al Tishrei v'aloy zrizin magdimel mitzvos. If you say that Tishrei is the bris of Avraham, and the pasuk says lamoyed hazeh b'shana acheres, and he promised him that he's going to have a baby, and this was said Nisan because it says lamoyed hazeh b'shana acheres. That means it's going to be lamoyed hazeh b'shana acheres. This time, the next year, Sarah is going to have a baby. So this was a year before Yitzchak was born. So this was said in Nisan of the year before. So that means he was commanded to do the milah on Pesach, v'loy nimal ad Tishrei. If you say everything happened on Pesach, fine. He was commanded on Pesach to do the bris. He was told the next year Pesach you're going to have a baby. He was told the next year Pesach you're going to have a baby. The bris was on Pesach. Fine. A year later he had a baby. But we're learning in our Gemarah that the middle was on Tishrei, and that's when the Vayeri Lo Hashem, that's when the Malachim came and everything. But when he tells him, Lamoyed hazeh b'shana ha'acheres, Lamoyed hazeh, you can't say the next Yom Tov. Lamoyed hazeh has to be this Yom Tov. So that means he told him to do the bris on Pesach. So he waited 6 months. That's the question. Eichi tachel loimer shenitztava b'Pesach v'loy nimel at Tishrei. Ba'aloi zrizin magdimin lemitzvah. So how did he push it off? Va'oid haksiv be'etzem hayom hazeh. And we learned boy b'yom shetzivon nima. The day that he was commanded was the day he got the bris. That means he didn't wait 6 months.
We don't hold that it was on Pesach.
We don't hold that the Malachim's visit was on Pesach. Vayerei love Hashem starts in Tishrei. But everything till Vayerei love Hashem till the end of Lech Lecha, Tosfos is learning L'chayda that they don't agree, that they agree happened on Pesach, because it says Lamoyed Hazeh B'Shana Acheres. So that means the commandment for Milah was on Pesach, and he did it 6 months later.
But he did say the next parasha also Lamoyed Hazeh.
No, the next parasha says Lamoyed Ashavei Lecha. So over there we could touch Lamoyed, the next Moyed. So again, the Seder Olam and the Mechilta Taich Lamoyed means this Moyed next year. But we're touching Lamoyed, the next Moyed. But in Parshas Lech Lecha Shteitach Lamoyed Hazeh Sarat Leisrita B'Koisel. This is going to be the date 1 year later, right? So it's Pesach. So we have here a problem. Why did Avraham wait 6 months? Plus it says Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh that he actually didn't wait. Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, most Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, the very day when he was commanded. Those who say he was circumcised in Tishrei, the Amar ben Nissen Nivra Olam. So when he says Lamoyed Hazeh B'Shana Hacheres, Lamoyed Hazeh B'Shana Hacheres, actually what makes it a Shana Hacheres? That Rosh Chodesh Nissen is in between, and since Nissen is the creation of the world, so every cheshbon starts in Nissen. So therefore, the new year starts in Nissen. So from Tishrei to Nissen, from Sukkot to Pesach is actually a new year. That's what it said. Ulahachi hadel Pesach. That's what the Bach learns. Ulahachi hadel Pesach. Ulahachi. The Tosfos Rosh says Kari. Ulahachi hadirol Kari lePesach Shana Acheres leMoyed Hazeh. That's why he calls the next Pesach a new year, because it's going to be after Rosh Chodesh Nissen, and he says leMoyed Hazeh Hainu leMoyed Acher. The B'yom HaKippurim Amarloi v'Korav l'Sukkos K'loima leMoyed Hazeh Rishon Shel Shana Acheres Ashavei Lecha l'Sarabein. So in other words, when he says as Brisi Akim as Yitzchak Ashetel L'cha Sar LaMoyed Hazeh B'Shana Acheres, according to this Shitta, this is happening not Nissen, it's happening Tishrei. Avraham doesn't delay the Milah. Avraham does it right when he's told. In other words, it was Yom Kippur, so this was set to him on Yom Kippur. So when it says Ashetel L'cha Sar LaMoyed Hazeh B'Shana Acheres, doesn't mean LaMoyed Hazeh this Yom Tif, because it's not going to be this Yom Tif, it's going to be a different Yom Tif, it's going to be Pesach. LaMoyed Hazeh B'Shana Acheres means a Yom Tif like this, which is going to be the next year. What's going to be the Yom Tif next year, the first Yom Tif next year? It's going to be Pesach. That's how he's teaching. Yom Kippur, he tells him, it's before Sukkot. So he says, L'moyed hazeh rishon shel shana acheres. He can't say the next Yom Tif, because the next Yom Tif is Sukkot. So L'moyed hazeh means not the next Yom Tif, it means
the first Yom Tov next year.
The first Yom Tif that's going to be next year. A Yom Tif like this one that's going to be next year. The hazeh is not so geschmack like in the first shit. In the first shit, the hazeh is the Zelbe Yom Tif, Pesach. Here it's not the same Yom Tif. This is Yom Kippur, and this is Pesach. But L'moyed hazeh is going to pshat the next Yom Tif, that's going to, the first Yom Tif, like this one of the next year. That's what Tosfos explains. So Mela we have here Medrashas Chalukas when it happened. Either we say it all happened Pesach time, or it all happened Tishrei time. We put all the stories in Pesach, we put all the stories in Tishrei. Two ways of looking at it. Our Gemarah is learning that what it happened all Sukkos. It's not Negeya to the birthday of Yitzchak. The birthday of Yitzchak, according to everybody, happens on Sukkos, on Pesach, and that's where Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua do not disagree on that. That's not a question. That the L'moyed Ashavei Lecha, that Moyed was Pesach. Either you learn that it was on Pesach and Avraham was feeding the matzahs and Hashem said a year later, or you learn it was Sukkos and he was not feeding the matzahs. He just told Sarah to eat, to make bread, because that's what people ate, even if it was Sukkos. And therefore, it was Pesach. It was Sukkot to Pesach. Zok Tosfos, Hagah. You see, you don't have this often. You have a Hagah that goes to Yud Aleph Amud Beis also. It's a Hagah on Tosfos. Zok the Hagah. Shamati. I heard. Devadei HaMalachim Bo BePesach. For sure they came on Pesach. Could the Pirush Rashi b'Chumash? Every child knows this. Rashi says in Chumash that they came on Pesach. Like we learned before, it was Pesach, that's why he gave the matzahs. And yet, when Hashem says L'moyed Ashav Elecha, Ka'ez Chaya, which the Gemarah says was on Sukkot, that was Taka Tishrei. It's not a stida. In other words, we have now a whole new theory, and that is, in Vayed itself, there's two stories. Story number one is when the Malachim came and they promised Sarah and they promised Avraham they're going to have a baby. Then there's a new story, and that is Hashem turns to Avraham. Sarah is laughing, and she says, this is not happening. So Hashem tells Avraham, why is Sarah laughing? This happened 6 months later. This happened Takin Tishrei. The Gemarah is not telling us here that the whole Maisa happened Tishrei. The Bris happened Pesach.
Why isn't that the Rabbi Tam?
Because Rabbi Tam Tain is everything happened Tishrei.
No, not the Leda.
Not the Leda. But the Tzivui on the Bris Milah happened on Tishrei. The Bris Milah happened on Tishrei. The Malachim came on Tishrei. Tzachak Asara was on Tishrei. Everything was on Tishrei. Now the Haggah is saying, no, you can learn everything happened Nisan. Just that detail of Sarah's, Hashem's response to Sarah's laughter happened Tishrei. That's it.
So the bris is also in this.
Pesach, Alt Pesach.
This Yom Kippur.
Yeah, La Moyed Hazeh, Taka means La Moyed Hazeh. Next year Pesach, from Nisan to Nisan. Well, maybe Sarah laughed 6 months later.
No, that's what do you call it? She was listening.
No, that doesn't say. It says Vatitzchak Sarah. We learned that it was connected. The pasuk doesn't say. Huh?
Avraham also laughed.
No.
Again, the Pashtus, she laughed right after, but it doesn't say when Hashem responded. So either you could say he responded months later. Maybe this is a lesson. Sometimes you have to wait 6 months before you respond, especially if you're talking to a husband about a wife. It says anyway, Hashem was Mashana, yeah? No, I know. Sarah Shemas. Avram v'Sarah Skenim. Vatitzchak Sarah. So at Pashtus, you learn it was all together.
It's a joke for a while. I mean, that doesn't, you know.
Okay.
It says Beferish, Zekanim, she became older.
Okay. Or Hashem's response was 6 months later. She laughed right away, and his response was 6 months later.
When happened the Lech Lechu when he said to Avraham,
That was Pesach. Yeah? That's the shit of Haggah. Accept this. Until the Haggah, Taisva says, there's two Ma'alchim. Everything happened Tishrei, everything happened Pesach. What do I mean everything? Everything means the tzivui on the bris, the promise you can have a baby, La Moyed Hazeh, the bris, Hashem is his galus, the visit of the Malachim, Sarah's laughter and Hashem's response. All either Nisan or Tishrei. Either Yom Kippur and after Yom Kippur or Pesach time. Now he's saying no, everything that happened Pesach. And the detail of the Machlokes is just when Hashem said that line, La Moyed Ashuv Elecha Ka'ez Chaya L'Sarah Ben, which our Gemarah says happened on Sukkot. He says Gesundheit, it happened on Sukkot. I don't care, just that detail. La Moyed, the next Moyed, everything else happened.
Who's that?
It's very nice because this reconciles both shittas, right? It still won't work with the Pirkei Rebbe Lezer because Pirkei Rebbe Lezer says the bris was on Yom Kippur. So obviously there is such a shitta that it happened Yom Kippur.
It doesn't work exactly with the Psukim so great,
but this is his mahalach. That's what he's saying. That's what the Haggah is saying. K'de Pirish Rashi b'chumash l'mayed ashav elecha haya b'tishrei umei oisai mayed darish hachad b'sukkos avakoi v'kama l'mayed shachaz ashav ayna b'pesach aval ha-malachim heim sartu shita b'kaisa b'pesach. The malachim, when they said we're going to come back, they taka did their scratch on Pesach.
The malachim didn't do the sweet. That doesn't say anything.
They just said shoiv ashav elecha ka'es chaya. So he's teaching that their ka'es chaya was also a srita. You're saying
the srita was done, and it doesn't really.
Okay.
What the srita's for?
V'im toimar. But here's a good big shaila. Im kain, if this is true, halt kop the malachim came Pesach. My parechachim came kemadlus imei tumah bat shiluhu. Why does the Gemarah say that if you take off the 7 days of Tumah, you're not going to have enough for 7 months of pregnancy? According to this, she didn't become a nida on Sukkot. Avraham Avinu said, bring bread. L'poyel, he never served them bread. He told Sarah, make bread. Lushi vasiris, he never brought bread. He brought yogurt, he brought milk, he brought tongue, he brought mustard, alle gute Sachen. What happened with the bread? So Rashi says, Pirsis are nida. So therefore the bread became tameh. Avraham Avinu was oichel chulin betara. Everything was betara, even though you're not dealing with a halachic problem. You're allowed to eat bread that a nida touched. But mitzad Avram's behavior, he wouldn't eat the bread. So when did she become a nida? If they came Pesach, and you want to reconcile our Gemarah with that shitta,
To say it was twice.
so she became a nida Pesach. So you don't have enough time for pregnancy. You don't have enough time for pregnancy. You have 12 months.
We said club before that it had to be that the nida from the bread wasn't the nida that it could be the sabah from, because it was afterwards. In other words, what was Vatischat was later.
Okay, so let's see. Yeah.
But it's possible the psukim, which is Achi Bloisi Hoisli Edna, that was 6 months down the road. You're telling me. So obviously she hadn't been pierced nida until that point, or else she wouldn't have left.
Right, so the question is, if there was no other need after the promise, that was it. Why does the Gemarah say that what? You're missing time. So this proves that the whole thing happened Tishrei. The Malachim came Tishrei, and therefore Princess Sarah Nida, like Tosfos said in the beginning. She became a Nida, perhaps you'd Gimel Tishrei, or before Tosfos you learned she became a Nida on Sukkot, and you needed that extra time for pregnancy. V'yesh loymar de'ena chanami. The Achar Sukkot Sha'amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'mayed Asher V'Hayis Anida was a second time. That was the idea, that she went back to the system of a younger body, that biological system. So after Sukkot, when Hashem said L'mayed Asher V'Elecha, after Sukkot, Achar Sukkot, after Sukkot, when Hashem, he doesn't mean after the Yom Tov Sukkot. He means after the time Hashem said L'mayed Asher on Sukkot, she became a Nida.
So why didn't he bring the bread?
Huh?
So why didn't he bring the bread?
Because Pirsa Nida on Pesach also.
It was a little bit. It wasn't enough to.
She saw blood then, and then she saw blood here again, 6 months later.
It wasn't.
Anita doesn't happen once. It's a monthly issue.
Consider the best. It has to be. It could not be enough down.
Oh, so now he's going to touch. Midiksiv, since it says Vatitzchak Sarah Bekirba, she laughed, and what did she say? Achar bloisi hoisa liedna. After I already withered away, I'm old, suddenly I became young. Pirush, Efsher Achash Zakanti Yachzeli Aiden Veses Ladam Nidus. Do you really think after I became old I can go back to this menstrual cycle, what we call the Veses? The cycle of a woman seeing Dam Nida? Miklal, we learn from here, She'ein Ishi Choylali Sabir Elim Ken Yachzela Aiden Veses. We learn from here that biologically the woman becomes pregnant when she is part of that cycle. She has to have that Eden from the word time, Veses, the cycle, and that's why Sarah is laughing. Sarah is saying, I don't have a Veses. I don't have this. I'm not capable of it. So when Hashem says, anything is far from me, anything is a wonder from me, and he's upset that Sarah laughed, she didn't have the regular cycle, that's why she laughed. When she became pregnant, the kmotim, the wrinkles straightened out, and the flesh became nisadin, became smooth, and the vesses came back. So Mela on Sukkot, when he says L'moyed Asher V'Elecha, she becomes a nida, because she can't get pregnant before without it. Why what? Because she didn't believe it was a Veses. On Pesach, when she saw blood, she became Tameh, so the bread became Tameh. But she didn't think there was a Veses. Why is there no Veses? There could be Dam. So therefore, how can I be pregnant? So now Sukkot, again, there's Elba Maisa.
So now that's why it took her 6 months to left.
Huh? So now Sukkot is Elba Maisa. She becomes a Nida again.
She didn't have anything.
She becomes a Nida again. And they say you're going to have a baby. She says, no, this is no baby. I don't have a Veses. That's why you prove from her laughter that you need a Veses. She saw blood. If you say, why is she laughing, B'chlal? You can ask, why is Sarah laughing? You see that there's blood. She didn't attribute it to pregnancy. But Mela, later when she becomes pregnant, everything worked out.
That's why it took her 6 months to left. To pick up that it's a regular.
How do you know she had more dam between the first one and the Sarah?
Because the Gemarah says here that you need the Yemei Nida. You need to include the Yemei Nida in Sukkot.
Yeah.
You need the 7 days of nida. In other words, it happened
You have to
again.
have that, but the dam.
And she becomes pregnant after.
Right, but she didn't have to have from Pesach till.
Oh, right.
Sukkot, she didn't have to have anything.
Yes, l'chayr, if she would have had every month between Pesach and Sukkot, she wouldn't laugh because that's Vesas.
Right.
Isn't that a fact?
No.
Yeah, it was an inyan about
It's a
Titzchak.
fact. It first says like Bikan Raya. It's
Oh.
a natural thing. We find out.
Was Meveis Heint is Zasach man.
Rabbi, who's the Hagul?
I don't know. It's somebody wrote a Hagah on Tosfos. Vim Toimar, Zok Tosfos. So now the last point. Vim Toimar, Mibias HaMalachim, Har Chazar Lo. 1 second, I don't understand. When the Malachim came and the Vesses came, Virayim and Ugas could the Pirish Rashi. She saw blood then. So what's the problem? If she saw blood then, so why is she laughing months later? He says, less, that's not a problem. The Vade Mashapirsa Nida Oz Lahoya La Kroiba Alma. When she became a Nida then, she thought, and it seemed, it was just, it happened to Maisa. Person sees blood. The Vesas only happens when Hashem says Lamoyed, which is when? In the month of Tishrei. But it was only the first time in Tishrei, so she laughed. She said, oh, this is not happening. So therefore she laughs. Viraya, Shalohoya Ela Kroy, She'achash Achlu HaMalachim. After the Malachim eat, what does it say? Ksiv Chada Lias L'Sara Erech Kanasha. Sarah stopped having a cycle like women. What says she stopped having? You just said Pirsa Sarah Nida, and that's why the Ugas became Tameh. What do you say she stopped having? It's the Charaya. You just said, why do Chazal say Pirsa Sarah Nida? You say Chada Lias L'Sara. It's not Chada Lias L'Sara. You could have said it used to be. So Pashtus, you learn it's about the past. But now it changed. But he's saying it's mashma even now Chadal. That Chadal now also. And then Sukkah started the Vesas. V'hilchach parech ki madli mar. That's why the Gemarah says you need to take off the Yemei Tumah from Tishrei because she becomes a Nida again. And that's when Hashem says to Avraham Avinu, Hayipolei me'Hashem davar l'moyed ashav elecha, which is what? Which is the concept of Pesach. L'moyed, the next Pesach. Ad kan Lashon Hagah. This is Lashon Hagah of Tosfos.
Question.
Yeah.
Why he brought the food to the Malachim, name it Rabbi. You see the water, it says, give that from
Huh?
Right, the wash the feet from the Malachim, he says, Hikach no ma'atmai. It's a good thing, but the brain, what's it shot?
Because of that.
Bring a Wasser, you give it a chimel. He didn't bring it himself, he told Yishmael Yigom. Then I bring it, get him schedule. Bring's me, ik breng me alleen, ik breng me niet. Nog jij is schedule, precies, altijd wat is er.
Huh?
I remember what we learned.
Oh, an important announcement. I didn't realize I'm going away for a few days tomorrow. So
Twice.
So I don't have to ask you about Shabbos and Sunday anymore.
I'll let you know. I have to deal with. I'll let you know about Shabbos because Shabbos I'll probably be here,
Yeah, and Sunday.
and Sunday probably also.
Okay, so
What is a few days?
So we're not here Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. So you could chaz it over the Gemarah till Daf Yud Aleph,
And Monday is it then?
or you can make a leinung to
Run the
Vayter.
video over here from the Shir.
I don't lose anything.
You're also traveling.
It's a great idea.
what we got up to from
Just tell Yeruchim. I forgot. Tell Yeruchim.
The last few Shir, we can run a video. We can run the video over here.
You're gonna get everybody out of bed for that? We have to have a substitute Maggid Shir. That's the truth. We need a substitute Maggid Shir, so there shouldn't be. Das ist great. Sehr schön gedauert. We'll take a video. We'll send your father.
These guys to mention how to.
No, wie sagt das hier?
Sie bleiben, es ist rein. Nicht Männer.
Okay, sag Geschmack der Teusfus. Das ist der Teusfus. Huh?
You think that anyone allowed to know this when they learn this?
Yes.
Yeah?
What do you mean?
She learned from Rashi. Rashi sets up a story.
No, Rashi just goes in the other shit that was all Pesach, and that's it. Avraham kept everything. What's that kept?
It's macht sense because even he kept Pesach before you choose Mitzrayim.
Right, it's not like you.
Everything is before it happens. When you're celebrating Shvius, Matan Torah, it's very hard to understand. I mean, for me at least.
Huh?
When they kept everything before the story happened.
The pshat is like this.
We say a million times that there's Zeicher that sees Mitzrayim, Zeicher that sees Mitzrayim, right?
The pshat is like this. Usually, we learn what a Yom Tov is. You have something happen on that day, and therefore we celebrate it. In Torah, it's not that way. It's because it's that day something happened then. You understand? It's different. It's not pshat. They happen to leave Mitzrayim. So it's not like they left Mitzrayim to Svav Nissen, so we celebrate. No. Because it was Tesvav Nissen, therefore they left Mitzrayim then. Tesvav Nissen, it was also by Avraham Avinu. So it had already the oir of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Of course, the story didn't happen; it didn't develop that way, but the toichen of it was there. Remember also that every mitzvah doesn't begin with Gashmis; it begins with Ruchnis. It's a Seder Hishtalshlus, like we always learn. So therefore, the toichen of everything you can have even without the physical, concrete manifestation, the energy of it. The same is with matzah, with morer, with tefillin, with dalet kaisis. All the nekudas.
Like that people can connect to that, even if they're not in the matzah of doing the mitzvah. It's not that it connects with the
Right.
Tomorrow you're also not here?
Morgen schickt man ein Video.
So that's why also, that's bechal the toichen of a Yom Tov. The Arizal says in Megillah, Vayamim ha'elin niskarim v'nasim. So he says, what's that niskarim v'nasim? When you remember it, it's v'nasim. The same oir that was nimshach the first year is nimshach every year. It's not just usually a holiday, you just commemorate. It's a nice event, It's a nice thing, you remember a story. He says, it's not niskarim. It's v'nasim. Severt nachama. There's a beautiful word from the Baditchever. It says by Chanukah that Lashana Haba Kavam. The Chanukah they didn't make that year; they made the next year. So he says, why didn't they make the Yom Tov Chanukah that year? After the miracle, they should have established every year it's going to be Chanukah. So he said, because since it's a Yom Tov, not Min HaTorah, so they weren't sure if it's a type of event that every year you could really celebrate it. Maybe it's just a memory. Or B'Signa Nache, they weren't sure if Chanukah happened because it was Chafei Kislev, or Chafei Kislev happened because it was Chanukah. If Chanukah happened because it was Chafei Kislev, so then every year Chafei Kislev you have Chanukah.
The year after they saw.
L'Shana Acheres, he says the next year they felt the oir of Chanukah in the same day, so they knew there could be a Yom Tov. That's what the Levitzak of Baditchev, the Kedushas Levi. He says it in Kedushas Levi on Chanukah. They had to wait a year. Because I have made a skull of V'nas.
Where's the argument whether it was a miracle or not?
Chanukah?
Yeah.
What aspect do you mean?
Whether it was a miracle,
the military victory was
a miracle that was worthy of making a holiday out of it. I mean, there were miracles in the second base of Mikdash every day. The smoke was going straight up, and the ribbon from the Azazel coat was turning white. There was miracles back then.
Well, just the military victory itself, even without the oil, was a tremendous feat.
Well, that's the only miracle that's mentioned in Al Hanisim. The oil's not mentioned in Al Hanisim.
Right.
Oil was, he said, was a signal that the wars were the real miracle. But I heard they were arguing all that year. I mean, only in Yerushalayim they captured. There was a Holocaust going on in the rest of Israel. They drowned all the Jews in Jaffa. They were murdering Jews all over Israel. And then you make this big miracle out of it. I never got it. And it was the beginning of the end too. Rome came in and base of English was gone 150 years later, but...
That's why many argue that they didn't establish it for the military victory, because that didn't last. They established it for
who
the
cares
oil.
about a little oil? I mean,
No, 'cause that-
again, there were miracles in the base of English.
It was the symbol that
Spiritual.
studied, it was the symbol that made.
Right here.
Lenny
Light.
just forces you
In
to
the middle of
look
darkness,
deeper.
there was
I
light.
want to answer your question
Yeah.
that you text me at 1:20 a.m. Was bist du auf, als ich-
Wow.
That's
Huh?
Understand the question.
I'll explain, because maybe other people also didn't understand. We're learning about the years here a whole time, and Noach's birthday, and when the Mabel was, and so forth. It says Hamabel Haya, yeah? You looked in the Chumash?
Yeah, but this is the end. The Gemara talks about the end of
The end.
Mabel. Now it's talking about the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning of the Mabel, it says Noach ben Sheish Meis Shana v'Hamabel Haya Mayim ala Aretz. The beginning of Noach. He was 600 years old. He was 600 years, and the Mabel came Mayim ala Aretz. That means the Mabel starts after he's 600 years old, okay? Remember, he's 600 years old. Clearly, that's a clear pasuk. There's no arguing about that. It's Perik Zion, pasuk Vav. Okay? It says again in pasuk Perik Zion, pasuk Vav, and then again in pasuk Yiralav, B'shnas sheish meis shana l'chaye Noach. B'shnas sheish meis shana l'chaye Noach. In the year of 600 years from the life of Noach. B'chodesh Hasheni, the second month, b'shiva asa yom ha'chodesh, on the 17th, by yom hazeh, as they say, heaven breaks loose, and the Mabel comes down. The second month.
Second month of what? Of his life?
No, b'chodesh Hasheni of the year.
So can we accomplish a day when he was born, for an example?
I don't know when he was born, but choose any day and we'll work it out. Let's say he was born Rosh Chodesh Nisan to make it clear.
Past already 600 years of his life.
So he became Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Let's say we're following his personal birthday. Let's not do Rosh Chodesh Nisan because that's the beginning of a year, possibly. Let's do a middle of a month. It'll just be a little easier. Well, let's do Tesvav Nisan. Lozayim Pesach. If Yitzchak was born Pesach, maybe Noach was also born Pesach, yeah? So he was born Pesach, okay? So he becomes 600 years. We're saying that there are personal birthdays, which we're going to reject. But let's say there are personal birthdays. So Pesach is his birthday. Pesach, he became 600 years, okay. But Chodesh Hasheni, in the second month, the 17th day, the Mabel starts. What's the second month? Depends how you count. Rabbi Lezer says you count from Tishrei. That's always the beginning, so it's Cheshvan. That's what Rashi says, Yud Zayin Cheshvan. Rabbi Yeshua says it's Yud Zayin Iyar. Rashi actually brings both shittas. So the Mabel started Yud Zayin Iyar, Yud Zayin Cheshvan.
And Noach was already then.
And Noach is already 600 years plus. He's already in his 601st year. Next Pesach is going to be his birthday. Of course, he's going to be in the Teva because it's going to be in the middle of a flood. And the birthday cake is going to be given in the Teva, and the lion is going to be the main mechutin at his birthday party. Okay, clear? Yes. Now the Mabel goes. Now the Mabel is not a short Maisa. It's 40 days of rain, plus you have 150 days. After 150 days, it's still filled with water. Now you eshed, it calms down. Now the water eshed has to come down. You still can't go on the earth. You can't even go on mountains. Okay, it's going to be a full year till Noach is going to, till Noach is actually going to be able to come out of the Teva. It's going to be a full year. But let's say it started Yud Zayin Cheshvan, right? When the Torah finishes the whole Maisa, it says, and that's what the Gemarah is quoting here, that Vayihi Perek Ches Pasuk Yud Gimel, right before Revi, Vayihi Ba'achas V'Sheish Meis Shana. It happened Ba'achas 1 and 600 years. Now, obviously, we're talking about Noach's age, because where did we get 601 suddenly? Barishon be'echad l'chaydesh. Remember, you started the Mabel 600 years, b'sheni b'shiva asa. You're ending the Mabel, almost ending it, 601 years, barishon be'echad l'chaydesh, charvu amayim me'al haaretz, the water is dry, Noach takes off the lid, and he sees it's dry, and then the next month, the second month, b'shiva ve'estrim yom l'chaydesh, chav zayin cheshvan, yafsha, it's dry, and Hashem tells Noach, leave the Teva. Now we're analyzing that pasuk Yud Gimel. Barishon be'echad l'chaydesh is Tishrei. Barishon, the first be'echad l'chaydesh, right, would be Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. Again, according to Rabbi Yeshua, will be Nisan, but let's discuss Tishrei. So we have a big problem. The Gemarah says, what's the problem? The problem is it's only one day into the year. Why are you calling it a new year?
But he's already 6 months, 601 years.
That's the question of the Shagas Aryeh. Beautiful. What's the problem of the Gemarah? He's already 6 months. He's already 6 months after his birthday. His birthday was Tesvav Nisan. This is Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, more than 5 months of his birthday. Why can't you call it Shana? Everybody says that 6 months into a year is a year. It's not 1 day into the year. That's his problem. Now you want to make his birthday Tammuz? Same problem. You want to make his birthday Av? Same problem.
Except if it's 600 years, if the month was the birthday, his first month when his birthday was. Except if the Mabul started on his birthday.
If the Mabul started on his birthday, before his birthday or after his birthday? It says it started after he was 600 years old.
600 and a month. If the month means that he was old, 600 years and a month.
And then the Mabul started.
Yes.
Okay.
And finished when he was 601, only a day.
So when was his birthday? Say when his birthday was. Figure it out. You'll see. Any way you figure it out, you have your problem. What's your issue? So the Shagas Aryeh is Mechir, the Torah Evan is Mechir, that the way they used to celebrate birthdays was no personal birthdays. Every Rosh Hashanah, that was your birthday. You were born Rosh Chodesh Elul, Rosh Hashanah, you were 1 year old, now starts your 2nd year. The next Rosh Hashanah, you're 2 years old, starts your 3rd year. What do you mean? I'm not 2 years old, I'm 1 month old. I'm 1 month and 1 year, why are you calling me 2 years? That's how we're doing it. You celebrate the national calendar.
So how would you say that?
So we'll say the same thing. When did Noach become 600 years old? Rosh Hashanah. When did the Mabul start? A month and a half later. When did he become 601? Rosh Hashanah. And we're calling it Sheish Achaz v'Sheish Mei Shana. He's called 601 years old. Really? You called 601 years old? It's 2 hours into your birthday, you're 601 years old?
So everybody's bar mitzvah the same day?
Different, yes.
They have this big bar mitzvah, 10 million kids.
It's same like it was in the beginning 600, now it's 601. When is he allowed to call 601?
So that's his point. His point is that 1 day in the year, this was the birthday. Since this was the birthday, this is the birthday when he becomes 601. It's called 601 years.
The same goes to the beginning of the month, that it was only 2 months.
It could be the Gemarah is also learning l'cha'oira that he b'achas v'sheish mei shana means the beginning of the 601st year. In other words, when we say he was 600 years, it was really 599. I think that's Geschmacker. 599, and he went into the 600th year. Because it does say that it was Vayhi b'shnas sheish mei shana l'chayei Noach. So he was 599. The previous Rosh Hashanah was 599, and year 600 started. Okay. Now he was 600, and 601 starts. So now I'm asking you, this is called 601. This is called 601 years. He went in 6 hours into the 601st year. You're going to call that? This is. He says, yeah, that's the point. That's the Meir. You understand? That's l'chayda the pshat. If you say that he was already 601 full years, so then by Rosh Hashanah it's taka 600. You don't need the 1 day. Like when we say birthdays, it means 601. You finish 601. You start 602. So I think the pshat is that you went into the 601st, and that's the chiddush. That even though you went in, it's already called 601 years because 1 day passed.
It was like China.
It was like China. That's what I'm saying.
But a double China, meaning also you were born already by the first year. Only then it was.
Oh, that I don't know. No, you don't have to say that. You could say when the pasuk says. No, it says it happened b'shnas sheish mei shana. It says in the year of the 600 years. So it's mashma that attack it. 599 going into 6. Which we're calling it 600 years. That's the mashmos of how he learns it. Because if not, you have a big problem there. If his birthday was 6 months ago, let's take his 600th birthday, but he already went into 601 for a long time. What's still? What's the yom? You don't need yom echad. You don't need even shloshim yom. If you want to say his birthday was, let's say, Tesvav Tishrei, same issue. Say his birthday was Tesvav Tishrei. Right? But then you have a problem. Why are you calling it a new year?
So this is the only place where the Torah calls by this cheshbon of somebody's birthday. Usually they have the month and the year, no?
No, we don't have birthdays. We don't have birthdays of Chumash.
No, but usually the dates is from Riyas Orla. No? I don't know.
There's no dates. You don't have dates. Very rarely do you have dates. You don't have dates here in Rabbi Yisrael. It's clear? You do it on paper, you'll figure it out. So. Okay.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.